astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start.
2, 1.
Infinite Plane Society, how may I help you?
Yes, I'm looking for the head of the Penguin.
All right. Hey, jeranism, thanks for dropping by. You just got on, and right now I just pulled up onto the screen a picture of Mad Mike Hughes' newest, yeah, it's the latest picture of the rocket. And as you can see, it's pretty much built.
Dude, that guy's got some balls.
Yeah, did you hear what he said? He said that last one, he was like, I gave myself a 30% chance of survival.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
At least he said this one's going to be a little bit more.
But
he gives himself a higher percentage chance.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's an optimist, though. See, if he was a pessimist, he would say, I've got a 60% chance of dying. But he's like, no, I got a 30% chance of living. So yeah, the guy's got something. He's got a conviction in his. I mean, he's a daredevil, but this is taking it to a new level.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to hear what he wants to do, and as expensive as it is, I think that if we get the right amount of people behind it, it can happen.
Yeah, and that's my thing about this rocket launch. This next one in August is, I think if we can drum up enough support for this and enough attention, then the next one will have no problem meeting any of its financial objectives in order to make that one happen.
I didn't check what we're at. What are we at today?
I think we're at 18 or 1900.
Oh, so not much after the Raw show.
Yeah, it kind of had a spike at first, but I think by the end of this month we'll get close to 4 or 5. And we're on a good timeline, though. I think we're going to make the goal.
And did he pick a date yet, or we just got beginning of August? That's all we know right now.
He's convinced that he'll get the most media attention if he does it in the middle of the week. So we're looking at August 5th.
Okay.
And so I'll be going out there. That's a great interview, though. And did you get any information from him about the type of camera they're going to use?
For the rocket launch or for the space thing?
For the space thing.
No, just that it won't be a GoPro, obviously.
Right.
It'll be a linear. Well, I don't want to say it's not going to be a GoPro. It can be a GoPro camera, just not with the, fisheye lens.
Yeah, the curvert lens, as we like to say.
Very curvert, yep.
Yeah, like Jimmy Curvert. Jimmy Kimmel. I pointed this out, how Jimmy Kimmel gets on his back porch and he says he can see the curve of the horizon. Well, someone said that he's been talking about that for years. So they've been doing damage control for the wake up before it even started, I think. But so what do you think of all these in-person flat Earth meetups?
I think they're awesome. I mean, they're I haven't been to one yet, but I want to get one going somewhere in the Bay Area, just because I think it's awesome to meet other people, and sometimes we get trapped in these internet world where you've got nothing but drama and chaos and trolls. And so when you get outside that, as long as you don't have trolls showing up trying to pretend to do live feeds from the corner, I think it's a good thing. So I'm looking forward to attending a few coming up here.
Yeah, cool. I look forward to it. I'm going to be out there in California for the launch in August. How far is Amboy, Texas from the Bay Area, from where you are? Oh, no, it's Amboy, California. Excuse me. Amboy, California.
It shouldn't be too far. I don't know where it is. Let me check right now. When he said that, I was going to check, and I forgot. It's got to be down south, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's that.
But for those of you who are looking at the picture, yeah, that rocket is a steam-powered rocket. He's going to release a PDF on how the thing works and how the other one works. But this one's going to go for 1 mile at about 600 feet up or so. And then it's going to parachute down. After that's the big launch where he it's a raccoon, a rocket balloon. So it's a rocket lifted by a balloon up to 130,000 feet.
And then what does he want to do? He wants to shoot a rocket from that point and hit 60 miles?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how they're going to do it. He has the information, but it's all proprietary. He's going to release it probably next month. But they have a plan to get to the Kármán line. So I hope there's not a dome for his sake.
Hey, I'm all for it. Let's no naysaying. Rule number 2.
Yeah, exactly. I have naysayers saying, even if he gets up there, it's not going to prove anything. I'm like, all right, there's no pleasing some people.
No, that's the thing is that it doesn't matter what we come up with or what we see, they'll just dance around it.
Right. Well, what I want to find out is when they plan this launch, are they calculating for the rotation of the Earth, or are they launching assuming it's a flat plane as far as where he's going to land and everything?
Well, I think all their calculations always have to assume that the Earth is still. They've got their whole make believe, everything attached, the atmosphere is attached, and everything moves with it, and that's why they get away with that. But they have to take everything as and assume that it's stationary and flat.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It'd be
But
like go ahead and try building railroads with curvature in mind.
yeah, well, someone in this chat room, I think, yesterday or the day before, they said that they were speaking to a carpenters union, and I think there were hundreds of people there. And he said he was talking about flat Earth, and he said that these carpenters, a lot of them, they were listening to what he said, and they had no trouble understanding it. And it wasn't like they were just becoming flat earthers, but they were actually asking questions about it, and kind of thinking about how they actually do their own work. And like, well, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, because they have to each, no matter where you're building, you have to assume that parcel of land is flat. And so at some point, you got to give. I mean, all you got to do is look at that lake in Russia. I forgot the name of it, but it's like 350 miles long, and it freezes over every winter, and it's completely flat. So I mean, that's all you need to know that water doesn't curve. You got 350, and if for let's say that one section is flat, well then where are you making it up that there's even more curvature? So yeah, I mean carpenters and geodetic surveyors, they'll all come around eventually and realize that you can't just have flat next to flat next to flat next to flat and never. When are you ever going to make up all that curve? Where does that come from? It doesn't exist.
Right. I saw this. It was a graphic. It was like a cross section of the Great Lakes or something, where it's like 2,000. No, yeah, isn't? I think it's 2,000 miles. No, not 2,000. No, it's 212 miles. I mean, but anyway, from the Great Lakes, there's five lakes there, and from Lake
Mm-hmm.
Superior down to the sea level, it's like 612 feet over 200 some miles. Where there's just, I mean, Niagara Falls is a little bit of a drop, but that's it. There's like barely any drop at all for this whole stretch of lakes, and I'm like, that's just that doesn't make sense.
No, it just doesn't work.
And it was actually a, I think it was a army army, not construction. What is it? It was some it's actually a U.S. military document that had the cross section of the Great Lakes and was showing how they're spaced and their different elevations. And I'm like, there is no curve in there at all. There's nothing. It's just flat.
Yeah, and I mean, too bad it's would be too expensive to do something like just attaching levels one next to another, and yeah, let's say they're a foot long, you'd have to do a mile's worth, or probably 3 or 4 or 5 miles to actually get it. But I mean, we're supposed to believe that these levels glued side to side would eventually go off into space.
Right.
That's what they'd have to do. It's just simply not going to happen.
Now, what do you think about the spirit level test on the airplane that was done by a couple of people have done that so far? Do you think that's pretty
I think the
conclusive?
better one is the accelerometer. I mean, that test that was done by Tesla's Apple, and I think that's conclusive as it gets right now. I mean, I don't know how. I haven't heard any explanation for it. Have you? From anybody that makes any sense of how that would work on a ball?
No, no, that's an interesting one. I haven't heard any sort of refutation. I've been waiting. Maybe I ought to hit that one a little harder these days because, yeah, I haven't heard anything contradicting how that one explains how, yeah, this thing isn't not a curved spinning ball by any stretch.
And I think that eventually we'll find, and I think that's what we need to push hard on, is that we can all speak about the many reasons mentally that the globe doesn't work, but I really think we have to find that one thing that we can put our finger on. For me, I was pissed because this last week I thought I found it. It wasn't even actually my idea. It was somebody else who came to me, and I kept telling him, "No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong." And then he said, "Well, model it, and you'll see." And when I modeled it, I didn't realize my globe is freaking broken. And as I modeled it, it didn't happen. I was like, "Yes, finally, I found it." And turned out to be not the case. But I think the more we push things like that, the quicker we'll find um, the one that doesn't work. And I think people need to not be afraid of being wrong. It sucks. Don't follow my trail because if you read the comment section or just go to other videos and check it out, people are saying, "Oh, you work with Wolfie. Oh, you're part of a disinformation campaign." Just nonsense, and it's just because I went out on a limb. But when you're wrong, you admit you're wrong. It's okay. No, I guess we can model star trails on a globe in the way that I presented it. But there's so many more things. We just have to find that one, because when we find that one, then we'll just go full force with it, and they'll have no option. I mean, what are they going to do at that point when we find that one thing that just doesn't work on a globe? For now, for me at least, it's that accelerometer.
Right. And good point about not being afraid to be wrong, because true science is humble. It starts off with, I don't know. And then you get people with Bill Nye with his bow tie, this preening narcissist who says he's going to save the world. And it's like, you can't get any more arrogant than that. And true science,
What
you've got to be humble enough to say, yeah, I made a mistake or I was wrong here.
the cis male Bill Nye?
Oh, yeah, yeah, the cis male with the sex junk, that whole thing.
That
Oh,
was
man.
the most disgusting thing probably of the decade.
Yeah, the most cringe-worthy thing I've ever seen in my life. And that Rachel Bloom character has been doing that
Ooh,
kind of
boy.
stuff. Ugh. That was the thing that was singing the song. And before it gave that song, it had done another song by, it was called F Me Ray Bradbury, which is exactly as it sounds. But the song was sung from the perspective of a sixth grader, which
Oh
is like,
man.
that's twisted. And that's the chick that Bill Nye hired to do his sex junk song. So that tells you the kind of circles that these people run around in. These are not scientists.
Did
These
he,
are,
did he get to read the lyrics first? I mean, he didn't have a problem with give a handy to some newbie sad clown on Skype or whatever the hell. It's like,
yeah,
who allowed that to go through?
yeah, that was awful. And the sickening cartoon with the ice cream cones, like the vanilla one was being shamed for being vanilla, and
Oh
and,
god,
and not having the
disgusting.
orgy with the Neapolitan and the sherbet or whatever. It's just like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
I do have to say though that that video gave me hope in humanity again because when I first saw it, I was like, unbelievable. I know that all these science backers, fanboys, are gonna back this. Like it's okay, and luckily that's not what happened. In fact, I have yet to see somebody who has said anything positive about it. And I think last time I checked, it was something like 1,000 thumbs up versus 96,000 thumbs down. It's by far the worst I've ever seen
Yeah,
in thumbs up, thumbs down.
that shows you how far off they are. They think that they can tell people what to think, but there's a line. I think that
Right.
there's a
Went a little
line
too
there.
far there.
Yeah, so they hit that.
Sad thing is if they have their way in 10 years, it will be the thumbs up, thumbs down will be the opposite.
Exactly. Or they will make it impossible for people who would give it a thumbs down to express that opinion. I mean,
Yep.
there's some law in Canada right now they're passing where you could be like charged for a hate crime if you misgender somebody. And to me, I don't know. Kyle McDonald's in Canada, and he's like, I'm going to say that flat earthers are gender, and if you don't properly identify me as a flat earther, you're going to be charged with a hate crime. It's like, do it. That's exactly where they're leading this thing towards. Thought
And
policing.
that should probably be our next step is to look into getting it as a 501c, religion or something so that it can be considered a hate crime.
Ooh, good
We got to
call.
play by the rules sometimes.
Well, he put up a sign that said research flat earth and stapled it to a telephone pole, and somebody stopped their car, got out, ripped up the sign, and stuffed it under a bush.
Isn't it funny how, I mean, talk about triggered.
Yeah.
People get so pissed.
Well, the only truly politically incorrect position or stance to take today is flat earther. Everything else goes. Everything else is politically correct as far as I'm concerned. Like
Right.
Bill Maher can say the N word on TV. Kathy Griffin can decapitate the president. And Snoop Dogg can shoot him. That's all fair game. But if you say flat Earth, yeah, then they turn on you.
Quickly.
But well, my hope with this rocket thing, by the way, is that even if he doesn't prove anything or validate anything, even if the camera fails, I'm hoping that this will elevate the discourse and get more people talking about it on a more serious level. And I think that when that happens, more serious minds or people who might have certain information will just step up and say, hey, this makes sense. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for by getting behind this Mad Mike. So I was really glad that he got on your show, and he's still. I hope he gets on Glowbusters. And by the way, Glowbusters left a comment here. He said that you're trying to get to Denver to get his autograph. Is that true?
No.
Okay. Unequivocal.
I don't want to say that. I'm just kidding. I love Bob. No, I do. I'm going to see Bob soon enough. Well, November, maybe before that, but we'll definitely cross paths in November. Get to see John for the first time. So that's going to be awesome. Get to see a lot of people. I've had a ton of emails from people saying they'll be there. So that's going to be pretty kick-ass. You'll be there, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I've only
Yeah.
met one flat earther in person, and honestly, it's really nice. It's really interesting to be around people who um, know what you're talking about when you're talking about this stuff in person. It's so much nicer than. I mean, I like talking to people online, but honestly, having someone in. We went. It was Jake Gibson and I. We went to the dinosaur museum and just kind of walked around. He was kind of trolling people there. It was kind of funny, but it was just like to hang out with other flat earthers is very constructive. The ideas that come out of it, it's very, very constructive.
Now, have you seen the image that's at the Museum of Natural Science in Raleigh, North Carolina yet?
No, what is it?
Oh, let me see if I can get it for you here. I'll drop it in the chat here. Oh, it's terrible. So you and I have to come up with a plan for, let's see, that would be, what is it, Thursday, Friday is the conference. So maybe Thursday night we'll have to do something here. Let me find our Skype, and I'll drop this in the chat for you.
All right.
You can show it if you want. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. How do I?
You can drop it
Hold on.
in the chat. I'll just send
Oh,
it.
I'll drop it. 1 second. Copy image address. All right, here it is.
Okay.
Yeah, check out that image.
All right. Let's see. Naturalscience.org calendar. Okay, let's see what this is. Oh my God.
So we got to come up with something, man. We got to.
Oh
We gotta,
no. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That has to go.
it has to go. I'm thinking a giant blanket or something that we somehow put on some poles and cover it up, or that'll hit the news.
Now, is that like a plan, like a an architect's plan, or is that like the real thing? Is that already up there? Because
No, that's there. That's real.
that's horrifying.
It's horrifying.
Because you can't unsee it, and that's to me that's brainwashing. That's
Oh
crazy.
God, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna have to come up with something. Anybody have any ideas? By the way, November. Yeah, we'll have to go down there and do something with this thing. Like, it might be a
I
good.
think we might be able to, if we did a big quilt, I don't know, some big old blanket, and somehow got it up over that. I don't know, some people with some rocks or something could throw them up on the roof there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something. That's got to be 100 feet tall. I mean, it'd be a good protest site, like this is BS or this isn't real. But
Yeah, we could just march around it too, but it actually, I think it lights up at night. Yeah, if you look up some other images of it, you just look up Museum of Natural Science, Raleigh, North Carolina. It actually lights up at night. It is huge and bright and obnoxious and false.
good find, good find.
So I don't know how far that is from the actual event, but when I looked up, because I've never been to North Carolina, so I looked up Raleigh, and that's the very first thing I saw. Like, holy Lord, what is going on?
Unbelievable. Yeah, this is something. Yeah, we'll come up with something. There's got to be something we can do. At the very least, I'm gonna have to go see it for myself. That is colossal.
That is huge.
Somebody says paint. Oh, somebody said, oh, chess. We can't do that. He says
Now we got to think of something that won't get us
exactly.
arrested for facing. I don't know what the rules are about protesting something like that, but I don't know. I think as long as you don't break anything or cause any damage, I don't think they could do anything.
Right, right.
I mean, if we covered it with a blanket that somebody just needed to pull off, probably wouldn't get in trouble for that, but at least you could stand back and get a couple quick pictures and maybe the media will catch it.
Now, what globe would this be? What projection is this? I mean, is this thing even like where? I don't even see Antarctica on the bottom.
Because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
have
don't
it.
know. Let me see. I don't see. Yeah, you're right. I don't see it at the bottom at all. I don't think it spins. I'm trying to see. No, it doesn't look like it does any spinning
Now
because it
this
looks
would
like a
be
OC.
it would be a good protest site though. Like someone like Authentic Intent could be out there pointing it out to people, saying, "Hey, look, that thing's fake. This is what it really is." So I could see this being used to kind of open dialogue at the very
Yeah, me
least.
too.
Because one of the things he
Yeah,
does in one of his videos, Authentic Intent, who's someone he's doing some a lot of street level activism, is he'll go in front of the dinosaur museum and he'll tell people, "Hey kids, dinosaurs never existed. Ask the people in there that none of those are real. It's all made in China." Like he'll go out there and
right.
he'll say it to their faces, and that's great. I mean, so I could see that working here as attack.
Did you say you saw somewhere what its size was? I
Uh,
heard you say 100. Were you just
n-
estimating?
I was estimating. I was estimating based on the size of the building around it. But so, Mark here says there's a globe like that in Washington too. Interesting. Globebuster says somebody breaks that huge globe, they will blame me. Yeah, I mean it could be rolled like that one in Fight Club. And all right, that's cool. Hey, we'll go out there, we'll tip it, and we'll blame Bob. Blame it on Bob.
Bob said it was okay. He said he owns this place.
Oh yeah, exactly. All right, thanks, Bob. We'll keep that in mind.
You heard it here first. We'll save this. Got that on tape. Yeah, I don't know, and who knows what's in this museum, but I'm sure they've got many a cast model of a large lizard.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't put any sort of disclaimer on there that you're looking at a plaster model. And I've noticed there's a parallel here where the dino scientist will find a chicken bone and then make a brontosaurus out of it. And that's no different than when they take an image from the Hubble that has a little red dot and they'll say, "Oh, that's 20 new planets. All these different
Right.
colors. This one has ice, this one has 20 moons." It's the same thing. It's all just extrapolation and storytelling.
And things that aren't in our visual spectrum, or things that didn't exist, don't exist now but used to exist, or things that exist so far away that I mean, every lie is, of course, at a place that we could never get to it. Yeah, you can tell us stories all you want about things that used to exist. You can tell us things that are so far in space we can't get to, and you can tell us about things that the Hubble sees that aren't in the visual spectrum. I mean, where does it end? But that's clearly what they go after. They know they can't. I think they do their fair share of lying about things that are right here that we can see, but they love anything that they know we can't, and nobody will get to. I mean, nobody's going to travel anywhere that they're saying these things exist anyway, so they can just make up whatever they want, and you're at their behest.
Right, right. Their claims are not falsifiable, which puts them outside the purview of science.
Correct.
And that's a key point. It's just not falsifiable. I mean, flat Earth is falsifiable. Show me the curve. The
Hmm.
globe, I mean, the whole system is based on. It really does take a whole lot of leaps of faith that people don't even know that they took.
Right, because they taught us that it was all done through the scientific method, and the scientific method is the best method to get to the truth. So you teach children first, here's the scientific method, here's how we go through things, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then the next thing they say, you live on a globe, and the stars are 25 trillion miles away at the least, and you think, well, wait, this is in science class, so therefore these things went through the method. That's all that your second grade brain can fathom at that point, and it's not until you're 30 freaking five that you start looking for some of these hardcore evidence and hardcore proof that would be required of things you're going to teach to second graders, and when they're not there, you're like, what the fuck?
Right. And then the environment itself in the schools when they teach you this stuff is you're with a bunch of kids with one authoritarian, and if you disagree with the authoritarian in some way, everyone will laugh at you. So they use the fear of being shamed and outgrouped to corral your
Right.
thinking anyway. And
I mean, if you really put a number on like the amount of people that can come out of say sixth grade and not believe in a globe, it's 0%. It's impossible.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So we got to change that because get it at least to be 10%. 10% have come out of sixth grade and are at least thinking rationally, and then it will just spread. But yeah, as long as it's 0%, well, that's why you've got all this kickback. That's why we can't uh, even talk to people about it, because they're saying, "What are you talking about? There's a 0% chance that you can believe that."
Yeah, I think people need to wake up to the fact that, the fake news meme has been going around quite a bit in the last year. So we all know that news is fake, but fake science. People really need to understand that scientists are no more objective than reporters these days. They're just not.
No, anybody coming speaking about peer review, I mean, just put them in their place and explain to them that that is not the way you operate anything, is by getting all the guys together who have spent 20 years of their life talking about a certain subject and say, okay, these 20 people or these 100 people or these 1,000 people, whatever, these people are the ones who are in charge of new information coming out. Well, you're asking that, the people who've spent 20 years of their life talking about a certain subject, you really think those are the people that are going to say, oh, you're right, my entire life was a lie. Let's go with this new truth. It's never going to happen. So you've built a little echo chamber, and they describe it as if it's something magnificent. I mean, you would never get together all the rapists in the country and say, okay, you guys are in charge of deciding what the new laws are for rape victims, or what happens to people that are guilty of rape. That's not who you ask. You don't want to ask those people. Those people would say, oh, we don't think that anybody should get in trouble for that. It's kind of the same thing with science and peer review. It's the biggest joke of a system ever. You're not going to get those guys to say all in unison, yep, our entire lives are lies. We've lied to our family. We've lied to our friends. We've lied to people in auditoriums and people in classrooms. It would never happen. So we're going to be stuck with whatever they've spent 20 years preaching forever.
Yeah, it's orthodoxy, and arguing from those sources is in fact the argument from authority fallacy. They're arguing from basically a divinely revealed text. That's kind of how they.
Yep.
And something else I've noticed too, because I study a lot of the debates between atheists and creationists because it's really good for identifying flaws in someone's logic. So Christopher Hitchens, for example, points out the God of the gaps fallacy, the divine fallacy, where if the creationists can't explain something with science, they'll say God gives credit for it. They give God credit. Oh, God did that. So I've noticed Globies do the same thing. Anything they can't explain with their model, they say gravity accounts for that. So gravity
Yep.
is their God of the gap.
Yeah, if you actually look at the Wikipedia for gravity, I think I did this in one video a while back, but if you just replace the word God with gravity, it reads perfectly fine, because the Wikipedia says gravity is responsible for everything that happens in the universe and for stars formation and for galaxy formation, and then it says, but is not responsible for things on a microscopic scale. It's just nonsense, but you replace that word with God and the whole sentence reads perfectly through. And you're exactly right. I mean, I noticed right away that you've got this group that goes around laughing at creationists. Oh, you're a creationist, you believe in creationism, and yet they believe in a moment in time where everything that exists was created. That's what they believe in. So it's like, wait, how can you laugh at creationists when you believe in creation? What is the difference between the Big Bang and creation?
Yeah, just different nomenclature. I thought about that. Like Christopher Hitchens died thinking he was an atheist when he was actually a faithful adherent of the state religion of scientism and heliocentrism. And he accepted a God proxy, or just God by another name.
Yeah, by the name of nothingness, I guess. I mean, when I found out I used to think, okay, the Big Bang happened and here comes all this stuff spewing out, but they actually believe that everything that there is was created in that split 1/1 millionth of a second. That's why when you hear them talking, they say, oh, we can go back to 1/1 millionth of a second before or after the Big Bang. So you're like, well, why can you only go that far? Where's that extra? Well, in that extra 1/1 millionth of a second, they say everything that there is was created. It makes no sense. It's like, well, where was it all? Where did it all come from? It just appeared out of nothing, and yet they laugh at creationists.
Yep, it's an absolute myth.
I think that's more scientific, I guess.
It's all nomenclature. Like I've been pointing out for a while that, the obelisk is just another has been re-represented as the rocket, or the satellite takes the place of the angel. Uh, the carbon footprint replaces original sin. I think that you could also make a number of parallels where they took their old religious system and they dressed it up with science. They replaced heaven with space, and they replaced these anthropomorphized deities with spinning balls with the same names.
And they promoted their saints, right? The Saint Isaac Newton, Saint who else? They got them all. Brian Cox is one. He's going to become one soon, I'm sure. And Saint Brian Sagan or Carl Sagan. These
Yep.
guys just got promoted to sainthood. They must have performed some miracles, I guess.
Yeah, and they do have their miracles that they cite, the things that can't be repeated, but that are accepted, like the Cavendish experiment is to me that's like a miracle.
Yeah, you measured the weight of the earth somehow while being on the earth.
And then another thing that religions do is they'll show like some kind of lineage that they come from an ancient source or they have some sort of like claim to authority. And I think that I think that dinosaurs are just nothing more than like a like a shrine or something. It's almost like this dinosaur is almost like a monolith, like it suggests something. So they invent the dinosaurs in order to bolster their claims that, oh yeah, the Earth was created this long ago, asteroids exist. These things are all just they're myths. There's really no other way of putting it. They're myths, and flat earthers are really the only myth busters.
Yep. Yeah, and if you let them keep going with it, they keep getting away with it, and it makes no sense. I mean, if you believe we went to the moon, number one, and then you believe in asteroids, number two, which any science fan is going to believe in both those, then if we ever got hit by an asteroid again, I'm not saying I believe this, but let's put ourselves in their world. That if we were to get hit with an asteroid and the whole world were to be destroyed, that it would be 100% NASA's fault. Because they can go to the moon, so why the hell don't you have 40 people, 50 people living there in case the Earth gets hit by some asteroid that you can save the human race? They don't even do that. So it's like, obviously there's no threat of any asteroid coming and destroying it. You're talking about now, oh, we're going to go to Mars, we got to go there, we got to colonize that, even though you can't live there, there's no air, there's no water. And people love it. People just are lining up. If they had an ad for who wants to go live on Mars, you wouldn't be able to contain the amount of people that would want to live there, as if it's anything compared to where we live now.
Yeah, and with the asteroid thing, there's a show that just came out called Salvation, and it's for like 12 episodes, and it's about an asteroid coming down and hit the Earth. And I was thinking about it. This is one of the reasons why I've been after dinosaurs lately, because when they teach you about dinosaurs when you're a little kid, like here's all these cool toys, here's the dinos. By the way, a big rock fell and killed them all. They teach you about mass extinction when you're little. And that's predictive programming, and now they're still pushing it in the media. Asteroids are going to kill us at any minute now.
It's just ridiculous. And I mean, how did these things get so big that, what were they eating? It's like, just it makes me laugh. The whole dinosaur fallacy is nonsense. It doesn't even work. And then they talk about, oh, well, you needed, thousands of millions of years for human evolution to come into play, but really then you just need to throw it back at them and say, well, wait a second, I thought dinosaurs went extinct 67 million years ago. You said anything bigger than like a hamster was wiped out. So now you're saying in 67 million years that hamsters evolved into human beings. That's all it takes now. I thought you said it needed billions of years,
Ooh,
and
good
instead,
call.
no,
Yeah,
it's just it's 67 million years.
good call. Hadn't thought
I mean,
about
if you
that
think
one.
in 67 million years that we're going to have hamsters that are going to be designing jet aircraft and flying across the plane, and you got to be kidding me.
Now, I heard you mention once. I think you kind of alluded to this new chronology thing. Have you looked into that? This idea that our history may be as unreliable as CNN and Fox.
Oh yeah, no, a lot. I mean, that's kind of one of the books I'm reading right now is Anatoly Fomenko's. I think I'm on the second book, and yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, and I would talk about it a lot more, but it is really unprovable. There's some good points, some conjecture, but as far as our history, they're gonna. It, it's already been proven as much as it can that, I mean, go look at books and look at how far back we can go. There's no books that can be reliably dated before like 1200. So really, I think the best way that I've proven to myself that the whole chronology is wrong is just looking at a human population calculator and looking at what the population would be. I think right now we're running a 1.2% population increase, which is, basically you take the amount of people you have at the end of it or at the start of a year, and then you look at it what it is at the end of the year and how much are you increasing. So, if you had 1,000 people and then at the end of the year you had 1,010, that would be a 1% increase. And I think the Earth right now is at 1.2%. And like in the 60s, I think we were up to like 2%. But I don't know if there's any record of it being higher than that. But if that percent, I mean, there's a population calculator online, and if you put in starting population of 2 people, and even if you go like 2,000 years at 1%, you'll be in the trillions. So of course they've got their story of the Black Death, the Black Plague, and all these wars that eliminated people. But even with that included, I don't think that me personally, I don't think humans have been here very long. Certainly not as long as they say. And what Fomenko does is he notes that we have this whole chronology where all these different factions existed, but if you kind of look at it, it looks like one existed and then everybody else didn't. So like you have the ancient Greeks, right? But they were like they're like a separate entity. And then you say, okay, here comes the Egyptians. Okay, here comes the Babylonians. Okay, here comes the Mayans. But everybody exists like separate from everybody else. Well, that wouldn't happen. There's obviously people exist in those other factions while other things are going on. And what it looks like they did is they just took out, say, the Greeks and marked off, say, 600 years or whatever, 1,000 years for them, and like moved everybody else around. So, okay, you get pushed later, you get pushed earlier, and so then we learn about that. But they really probably existed all at the same time. I mean, he's got evidence showing that ancient Egypt might be from 1700.
Yeah.
And so that for me is big. I mean, I've never been a big fan. I know a lot of this is going to be hated on by a lot of people, but I'm not a big fan of the pyramids being old. Me personally, I think that they are fairly recent, probably the last 300 years. And it's just another thing used to kind of push things into the past. And they talk about, oh, we couldn't build these things today, which is another thing I just don't believe in. I mean, if you've seen the kind of cranes and the kind of things that we're capable of today, they could easily build a pyramid. But they tell people, oh, we have no idea how they built these. They couldn't have possibly done it. We can't build it today. I don't think that stuff is true. Yeah, Fomenko doesn't either. Basically thinks that the pyramids were ancient Egypt, but that's kind of, and if you notice, like the Catholic Church has pulled all those little markers, like the obelisk, right? They took that out of Egypt and put it at St. Peter's Square. And he thinks that there's a good 1,000 years that's been added basically from, I think he says like 700, like 550 to 1550. He doesn't think even existed at all. And I mean, really, if you look at it, think about the fact that we put a date of 0 on Jesus's birth, and that alone, to me, makes no sense at all. It just would never happen. I mean, imagine that today we decided we were going to start our time differently. You would never go back to some point in the past and say, okay, that is 0. Anything before that is BC. Everything after that is AD. I mean, that happened in 1500. I mean, you would never do that. It makes no sense.
Yeah, that's a strange one. You're right, because it wasn't like it was year. They weren't actually saying, oh yeah, it's year 33 and Jesus just died. No, that's not how it happened. It was later assigned to it, and it's so arbitrary how they backdate these things, and it's part of their control.
And then that's what got me on that whole trip, is trying to find out. I said, okay, well, when did Aristotle, or when did Plato, where did Pythagoras, these guys, when did they write their stuff? And when I went looking at that, it would always be listed in the dates that we accept now. So I was like, well, I want to see actually where Ptolemy wrote, where's his writing? What was the date that he wrote that? And if you go looking, it says 70 AD. You're like, no, where's his writing? Where's what he wrote? Oh, no, sorry, we changed everything in 1600. We adjusted it all to our time. So that's just all bullshit for me. And I know you and I have the same feelings a lot on religion. But to me, one of the big things is there's no dates in the Bible. And that kind of makes me think that it's a tool that maybe even has been used before or could be used again, because if it was actually supposed to be taken literally, there would be dates in it. It would be something that we could verify with actual dates and actual times, but there's no dates in it. It's just it's like a story. But if somebody's writing a storybook, they would write and not put dates in it. And if somebody's writing a historical, factual account, they would write dates in it. That's how things go. That's how you know the difference between something that happened and something that is metaphorical or allegorical. So yeah, for me, I don't talk about it a lot because I have no proof. I mean, I can tell you that ancient Egypt was 1700, but there's nothing to prove that. Um, but really, when you start digging into what is the proof of these various time frames and the way we date, I've talked about it before, but people think like, well, no, there's this piece of papyrus that was found, from Egypt from whatever date they may say it is, and it's like, well, yeah, do you know how they date any kind of written material? It's just dated based on writing style and utensils. So I could take a piece of papyrus tonight, rub it in the mud a lot, and then as long as I find the writing utensil that was used in, say, 1000 BC, and I write in their writing style, if I stuff it in a jar and hide it in a cave and it's found in 10 years, they will date it to 1000 BC. There is no way to date, written material. There's, we don't have, people think that we can just date things. They think that's how it works. Like, oh, we just date this Stonehenge or whatever. They can't date rocks. There's no dating of rocks. There's only dating of carbon material. So, like, to date Stonehenge, they have to dig around that site, find like some ashes from a burnt animal sacrifice, date that, and then they say, oh, well, this must be the date that these rocks were put here. It's like, what? That's not how you would date things. But that's how we date everything. It has to be some sort of organic material. But any kind of books, cave paintings, I've heard people talking about that recently. Like, oh, these cave paintings prove that there was a previous pole star. It's like, what are you talking about? Somebody wrote on a cave and drew some stars and then said, look what I found. And they all came and said, oh, well, let's see, what kind of writing did they use? And oh, they used this chalk. And okay, well, that must be dated to 2350 BC.
Right.
That's
Right.
seriously how they date things.
Yeah, I mean, like with the Masons, you have Anno Lucius, the year of light. And so what they do is they take our calendar, the Gregorian calendar, and they add 4,000. So right now, if you go to a Masonic lodge, the year is
Five,
6017.
oh, 6017.
Yeah, they add 4,000, and it's
I know. I thought it was year 5775 or something for that. I don't know where I'm getting that from. Maybe something else.
um, it might be. I mean, it's so arbitrary, but I think there's one where they add 4,000 to it. Um, but
Maybe.
but the idea is just like, yeah, it's all arbitrary. And I did a video months ago called "Aliens Are Fake," or "Ancient Aliens Are Fake." And the reason I said so is that it seems like the idea of ancient aliens are there as like a backdated myth, so the elite can say, "Hey, look, we royals came from the stars. We're gods."
Hmm.
It fits their
And,
MO.
and I'm not sure that, I don't like to ever be a kind of doom and gloom guy, but, it wouldn't surprise me if they ever, at some point in the past, eliminated all the people and started over. Basically, just get rid of everybody and then start over with a new story. And basically, that's what it seems like. And then you would be able to swoop in on some unknowing nomads and say, yeah, we came from the stars. We came from the planet Pallades, and we are your gods, and we say to do this and this and this. And then they would think, I mean, they would have nothing better to believe than that must be the truth. And then you get this whole story of ancient aliens. I mean, for me, I agree with you. I don't think that any of that has any kind of evidence at all. Neither does anything alien related. Which again, where were all the aliens before, say, Roswell? Same thing with like crop circles. I know a lot of people have a lot of big beliefs in crop circles, and I'm not saying that they are all hoaxes or whatever, but where were they previous to 1970? So were aliens just, showing up in 1970? Before that, they didn't care about marking their whereabouts or marking that they were here. It just seems like it's all clever hoaxes put on by men who think that they are pretty cool because they know what you don't, and that's easy. I mean,
Yeah,
anybody can fool anybody. I mean, that's not. I'm not impressed.
I think it's in their blueprint. Whenever I look at these myths, like man gains too much knowledge that gets flooded, and it was Noah. The whole Noah's Ark story. It's kind of this idea that once in a while the gods get pissed, and we have to remember that God is plural. So the gods get pissed. They don't like the competition. Look what they did to Prometheus. They chained him to a rock. So anytime men become like gods, they're no longer enslavable. They get flooded out, and then they get re-brainwashed. And it's like that movie Dark City. They just hit a reset button.
Yeah, I don't. It just seems like if there was only, I don't know, a billion people, or 500 million, maybe I could see something like that in the cards for the future. But I think at this point, I don't know how they would ever even think they could do something like that. I mean, I don't know about you. I can't picture them being that uh, brave or having that kind of system. But then again, when you look at the amount of underground facilities, tunnels, certainly seems like, they've got the seed vault, they've got all these things in prep for something. Who knows when or if they'll ever need to invoke that, but if anything would bring it on quicker, it's going to be flat Earth.
Now that's a good point. Because I like all these meetings in person, and I like the idea of this thing leaking because I think that it's a race, and that if they had the ability to shut this down, they would. Because one of the things that got me thinking about this was how they have these parallels, and so we have the National Atmospheric or no, it's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA. They work with NASA.
Right.
And they basically say, if you guys don't stop polluting, the world's going to flood. It's the whole man bear pig line. Well, the image for their actual logo for NOAA is the dove flying above the ocean. And that
Have
was
you seen their
this.
flag?
What was that?
I'll drop. I said, have you seen their flag? I'll drop their flag in the chat here.
Oh, no, I haven't seen it.
Um,
Drop it.
yeah, I just dropped it right now. Check out this flag. This is their NOAA's flag. It's like they couldn't do things more in our face. Um, they really couldn't. I mean, it cannot be more in your face. They could not tell you any clearer
Oh, yeah, look at that.
exactly what's going on.
Okay, so yeah, what you see here, you have the whole triangle thing and all that, but you have the dove
The
is the
dove.
symbol of Noah. And the dove was there after the flood. The dove flew to the ark and said, "Hey, everything's been drowned. Now you can return and then build everything back up." And so, as you were saying,
Mhm.
seed vaults. I think that Noah might actually be. I don't know. I think if they can get away with flooding us out, they probably would. And that's why I'm like, this has got to be a race.
And what I don't know if I told, or I don't know if you know anything about this, but it's actually on a video that you can still find because some other people mirrored it. But I pulled it down because it was real early on in my video making, and I got threatened that somebody was going to take me to court over it. If that had happened again now, I would not have backed down. But I had made a video about there's a certain company that owns, and I won't say the word all because people got mad at that. Most of the web domains for Antarctic cruises. They own Antarctic Cruise, Antarctic Cruises, Antarctic, Super Antarctic Cruises. They own over 150 domains for Antarctic cruises. And when I was doing some research on them, they have a 5-employee staff. It's only 5 employees. The name of the company is Polar Cruises. They've got 5 employees, and one of the employees, her name is Nina Spinraker. And in doing research for her, I found out that the head of NOAA is Dr. Spinraker. So I said, there cannot be a relation here. Well, I did some research and found out that that's his daughter-in-law. So you're
Ooh.
talking about the one company that's got their hands in every Antarctic cruise. Basically that you can, if you go online and search for an Antarctic cruise, you're going to end up at this travel agency, and one of their 5 employees is the daughter-in-law of the head of the NOAA. It's like, it's just
Yeah,
ridiculous.
they have it on lockdown. And see, I don't like to get doom and gloom either, but I also like sometimes I kind of think about what are they probably doing. And it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they already had a number of Truman Show type enclosures underground with test tube babies who are going to replace us after they flooded us off the earth. I mean, I think they're that messed up sometimes. When I
Yeah, I think so too. I think that these children that go missing all the time, what I think that they do is harvest these children underground or whatever, just grow them up in this crazy, evil mindset. And we all think that sometimes, like, we think there's cloning involved, right? We think they can clone people. Well, I don't think they actually clone people. What I think is that when these children grow old enough, then they will find a celebrity that matches just the looks. There's so many celebrities. Think of all the celebrities there are. That it'd be very easy to find children that you've been raising underground that look like that celebrity. A lot of people have doppelgangers or whatever, and then you just kind of replace them, and that's where we get all these ideas of, because I don't think that you can clone a human. maybe you can when they're a baby or something, but as far as like, okay, this person's an adult, they're 40 years old, and now we're going to clone that 40-year-old. Well, then how does the person grow up? And also, if you grow them up separate, because I know they do have a fascination with twins, but even that, I mean, somebody who smokes and drinks and maybe they turn out to be fat, and the one that's growing. So I don't think that's kind of an effective way of doing it. I think
Right.
what they do is simply have a pool. Imagine you've got this pool of thousands of people that you've kind of raised underground, and then when you need to find someone to match a celebrity, you just find them and they match, and there you go. And then you can have them do whatever you want to do and be these evil kind of yeah. So I totally agree. It's kind of, I don't like to be doom and gloom either. But I think that would make the most sense. And then, what they would do? They would just come back again. And then what we're doing by pointing out, me, other people that are pointing out flaws in this globe model, well, then when they start over again, guess what? The globe model will be that much better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're onto something because it's Occam's razor. What's more likely, cloning or that they're just farming us? And I think they're farming people around
Right.
rather than cloning. And speaking of, because it was Elon Musk who said that we're going to be a part of a interplanetary civilization. And when he said that, and he started talking about alternate realities or simulation theory, when he goes into that area, I'm thinking he's going to put people into Truman shows. He's already designed it or something. But before I knew about Elon Musk, I actually read a couple of his wife's books. And his wife, Justine Musk, she writes books about underground bases with clones that have no souls that become the bodies or the repositories for fallen angels. Like real twisted stuff. That's his wife. And I'm like, that's interesting. Because, there's always a connection between sci-fi and what the elite are actually doing. And so he's married to a sci-fi writer who writes a book called Blood Angel and stuff like that.
It's so sad. They put, people like that are basically con artists, and those are the guys that are, propelled in society. Those are the guys that if you mention that in a meeting of engineers, everyone's going to, fall down and kiss the ground he walks on. Like, oh, Elon Musk, when what he's doing is just screwing people at every opportunity. That's what he does. He just steals from government funding, subsidies. It has kept his entire businesses. None of them make any money. Not Solar City, not SpaceX, not Tesla. None of them make a penny. Yet when you take in the government subsidies, all of a sudden you make a profit, and people think he's great. I mean, his business, Tesla, is rated higher or valued higher than GM. And I think last year they sold like 50,000 cars versus GM sold like 25 million. It doesn't even make sense. And he loses money on every car he sells. And so who makes out on that one? Well, the rich people who, I think the average income for a Tesla owner is something like 300,000 a year. So those people are getting to buy Tesla vehicles for 40 or 50,000 when to make them is costing 60 or 70,000. And guess where that money comes from? It comes from you and I and everyone else in the middle class that is paying taxes. And that's the money he makes, and people dance around like he's some sort of genius. The other thing, I was going to ask you about this when you were on Raw, and I forgot. What's your opinion of like the whole idea of automated vehicles? Like, they've got these. They say cars are going to drive themselves, driverless cars. Do you have an opinion on that?
I've looked into it. I've heard. I think it's probably going to happen as it maybe eventually, but
See, I think it's bullshit. I think it's just a story because if you really think about it, I mean, who's going to insure these vehicles and who's going to go to jail
that's
if
it.
my
Yeah.
huh?
No,
Yeah, my
that's my problem with
driverless
it too.
yeah, my robot car hit some pedestrian. Well, it's not my fault. I'm not going to go to jail because I hit that person. Whereas if you're driving your vehicle and you make a mistake and hit somebody or whatever, well, you know that you're responsible for whatever happens when you're behind the wheel. But can you imagine that nobody would insure those vehicles? Plus, you can't have some vehicles that are, I mean, this is where I think they try and convince us that we're idiots because we're supposed to think that a car can do what a human does when you're driving. It's just ridiculous. When you drive on the freeway or when you're driving anywhere, people don't think about how much you actually have to pay attention to every single thing that's going on. If there's a child about to wander out in the street or, there's a million things that got tree branches falling. There's so many things that humans need to be aware of when they're driving. And yeah, do I think there's a possibility that you can take a big semi truck and drive it on Highway 80 across the country with some sort of automated system? Sure, I guess that's a possibility. But as far as like them taking over and we all have these driverless, I mean, it's ridiculous. Why would we ever allow that? Then somebody can just, let's say they don't like you, IPS, and they want to implicate you into some murder. They'll just program your car to drive into somebody's house or drive into somebody, and they say, it's your fault, you're going to jail. I mean, the whole idea of it is just such a scam to me that people would even consider that as being a possibility. I don't know.
Or even desirable, because yeah, it does take away this idea of free will. And when I drive, I'm very spontaneous. I go to different places. I don't like. To me, it's almost like as big of a scheme as thinking that you could get everyone to just go with public transportation. It's just not going to happen. Um, I think it is something of a pipe dream, and I think they would like it because it means more state control, more regulation, less
Right.
autonomy. And that's what it's about, taking away our autonomy.
Right, and then you put that in the same category as they're all talking about these, AI, which is another thing I just think is a joke. You can't create. I mean, they act like they'll be able to create some robot that will take over the world and kill all humans. And this is something like people like Sam Harris and Neil deGrasse. These guys are actually talking about like this is a possibility. When it's like those are robots, unplug them, put a code in that it can't do that. I mean, it's just when I hear shit like that, I'm like, come on, let's worry about things that are actually, in the realm of possibilities. I do not think you can create a robot that learns and then becomes sentient. So, I mean, you just need to make sure you have the turn off button. I don't know. They talk about it like it's real,
I
like it's
think
going to happen.
I think I know where they're going with this one. I've thought about this. I think that Elon Musk is probably going to get into this. I envision this future where instead of selling tickets to the moon, they're going to sell people at the end of their lives, hey, why don't you just upload your consciousness into this android? It will be you. And they'll probably get people lining up to euthanize themselves to get a new android body. And the
Yep.
people on the outside will think, hey, it's grandma, because she sounds like grandma. She uses all the same words, and they take all the data from her entire existence online and otherwise to make this personality. And I bet Elon Musk, the con man that he is, the guy who can sell tickets to the moon, could probably get people to go along with this. Like, I think that's his next big scam. It's one of my predictions. Transhumanism.
Yeah, definitely. I know that's definitely in his realm. He's already stated that. What does he say? The chances that we're not in a simulation are in the billions. That's what he actually said.
Ugh.
Can you imagine? I mean, I can't imagine having the balls to say that. Say the chances that we're not in a simulation are in the billions. It's like what? And he just bases that off the fact that, again, with this whole AI thing, he thinks that eventually we'll be, and that's another stupid thing. They say eventually we'll be able to create like virtual reality or that kind of thing is VR stuff that's going big right now. They say that we're just years away from creating it in a way that is indistinguishable from reality. And I can't agree with that because somebody is on the outside. Like, who put the damn goggles on you? That person knows that you're in a simulation. And if people ever got to the point where the simulation was so strong that, I mean, what are they saying? That even scientists or even people, they wouldn't even be able to know that they're in a simulation? It's like ridiculous.
Yep. And to the extent that you believe in all the psyops, the war on terror and all their hoaxes, including their false cosmogony, to the extent that you buy into all of it, you are, for all intents and purposes, in a simulated reality. And when I hear him talk about simulated reality, I'm wondering if he's just talking about turning up the level of mind control so we're totally divorced from any chance of finding reality again.
Yeah, you nailed it perfectly. That's what it is. I think you even were one that were saying it maybe a month ago when you were talking about that we're not very far from them having some sort of Truman-like enclosure and then telling us that those people live on the moon.
Yeah.
And telling those people that they live on the moon.
Yep. And oh man, that's so messed up because if they can do ISS for this long, they can fake a
right.
moon, and it's just gonna be unstoppable at that point.
Yeah, and then you just simply tell that group of people, let's say you put them down in Antarctica, and you kind of rope it off. You can't go past these locations because it's too dangerous, or if you go past here, nobody will know you're here. Because that's what they do in Antarctica. People think that you can just go down there and wander wherever. And I've read tons of blogs from people that have worked down there, and it is so strict. I mean, there's like you can go down this path, you can go down this path, and you can hike on this trail. And when you hike on this trail, you have to be with at least 3 people. And if you go down this path, you have to tell these 5 people. And I mean, it's so structured that that's why I think that Antarctica is basically just a few little locations, and then they can just manage those groups because it's not like you can just wander off. Like, okay, I'm going to go for a hike in my 4x4 today, or I'm going to go drive. No, that's not allowed. So it's very easy for them to manage groups of 500 people at the most, and if they all stay in one little area, well, you can do whatever you want from that point.
Right. Right. And that's what I wouldn't be surprised one bit if they not only have already built some Truman Show enclosures where the moon is, but maybe they already have actors there and babies and children there who are told they were born on the moon. And I mean, it's like the movie The Village, where you have
Mm-hmm.
this people who are born in a commune. They think it's the 1800s, but it's like the year 2000, and they don't know that the commune is a little place locked away in some habitat, some wilderness.
And
Uh,
people scare them, right? Is that what the movie was?
yeah, the elders who set up the commune dress up as devils and run around in the woods at night and say, "You can't leave the village because the monsters will get you." And they say that if you see the color red, you have to turn back. It's an evil color. Well, the color red was just the color of the foliage near the border of the thing. But the idea of this movie was that the people running the show totally knew that they were brainwashing the kids, and the kids had no idea. And then they would then pass on the brainwashing to the next generation. And then out of the kids, they'd have to pick somebody to let them in on the secret so they could manage the next generation. And they could be having these villages, these Truman Show enclosures. They could have one called Mars, one called Saturn, one called Jupiter. They could already have human farms, just plantations, high-tech
Well,
plantations.
what you kind of described is kind of religion that really, I'm not sure that the elite or these kind of people or even Masons at the highest level, I don't think that they worship Satan as in the being Satan. They worship Satan because by doing that, it makes you think that Satan exists. These guys worship Satan, therefore, I've got to fall back in line with the Bible, which tells me to be humble, be meek, I'll inherit the earth that way. Don't store up treasures. It's harder for a rich man to get to heaven than it is for a camel to get through an eye of a needle. These are just exactly what you just described. It's just the elders dressing up as devils, running around scaring people so that they fall in line.
Exactly. And that was a big point in the movie is that the Satan in the movie was the people running the show because it was all about the black and white and all about fear-based mind control. It's media. The media does it too. I call the mainstream media a terrorist organization because it
But
terrifies people with all kinds of lies and it actually influences their behavior and their political decisions. That's the definition of terrorism.
yeah, that's when the government realized what could be done with just people's mindset. Then they took over the media, and from there, things have been pretty easy for them because they know all you got to do is put it on the nightly news, and at least 80% of the country is believing it the next day. So you're gravy after that. I mean, it's easy. So I think definitely that's exactly what's going on. And I always talk about the rice experiment because I think that's a huge proof to anybody who thinks that your words or your feelings or your attitude don't change reality. And when you prove that to yourself, then you'll realize, well, wait a second, you've got the elite pumping the media full of whatever stories they want, and they're always this white cop killed this black guy, and there was this, this stage shooting or whatever. They just have all these negative vibes, and when people are thinking negative vibes, and when they're feeling kind of race tensions, or they're feeling whatever feeling that the news is giving them to feel, that actually manifests into reality. It's going to kind of feed off into other people, and that's exactly why I don't know about you. I was born in the '80s, and I mean the world was way better off, and I've just seen it go downhill since then. And that's the reason why is because more and more people have these kind of ill thoughts, ill feelings towards each other that are fed to them by a media that is absolutely a terrorist organization. And what's the definition of terror? It's right there. That's what they're doing, terrorizing people.
Yep. And of course, I've also noticed something about a lot of the type of the tendency for people when they're not doing something engaging, especially online, they get into personal attacks and drama, and I think that those behaviors are taught by the television, by the media, and I think that they basically train us to be kind of jerks to one another, so that in the absence of governmental authority, we can't be trusted alone. So we need more authority. That's why they invent hate crimes, and that's why they compartmentalize us. And yeah, the media is 100% toxic.
And that's why the internet has been, a lot of people think of it as a good thing, and it is good. We're able to reach out and find like-minded people, but at the same time, it's and I've said this many times before, but when we grew up, you couldn't call somebody a fat ass or you couldn't call somebody ugly because you had to say it to their face, and you either were going to get knocked out or you were going to have to see how much you hurt somebody by saying those words. But the internet has allowed people to become just wicked trolls to where there is no repercussions for being an absolute ass clown. You can go around, call people names, like you said earlier, shaming you for your arms or whatever. That's not something that person would ever say to your face in person because they'll probably get knocked out. So what do? They go around, and that's what makes them feel important. I couldn't believe the video that my wife and I did the other day. First 10 comments that came across were like guys that obviously have never made a chick come in their entire lives or something, because they just went off on, oh, your wife's a slut, oh, tell her to shut her, freaking whore mouth. And it's like, wow, like this is like you're that I guess incapable of dealing with your problem with women that you have to go on the internet, and because some girl sings on a song, you got to go and comment like shit like that, calling people a slut. That's my wife. I mean, it makes no sense to me. And it's like, I guarantee you not one of those people would ever say a word to my face. But the internet gives them a place where they can air out their inability to basically communicate with other humans. So that's another problem. But you're right. It's all taught to them in basically every show they see, or these different whatever it is, sitcoms or whatever, that there's these kind of name calling or these kind of shaming things. So that's where they learn it, and then they realize, hey, I can just go on the internet and say it, and there's no repercussions. There's literally no repercussions for going into a comment section and just mouthing off. And it may hurt my feelings. It may make other people look at it and say, like, what the hell's that? Why? But what good is coming of that, and what bad is coming from it? Nothing. It's just allowed to continue, and that's a problem because it's something we didn't grow up with. I learned how to treat people based on their reactions. That you couldn't call people names like that. You couldn't mouth off at somebody because you better be ready for a fight, or you better be ready to feel bad because of how you hurt them right there in their face. That's something that we don't see today. They don't even care.
It's like the Milgram experiment. You remember that old experiment where they were saying, if you put somebody like a blinder between them, and then the person has to push a button to electrocute that guy, will they do it if an authority figure tells them it's okay and that they need to keep doing it? But the Milgram experiment was basically showing how you can remove empathy if you get rid of eye contact and physical proximity. And I think we're watching this happen real time all around us, where yeah, mediated through keyboard warriors is what I call them. The keyboard warriors, and like you said,
Right.
that's what they are. They don't. I mean, they rarely come out in public, and if they do, and the one time I've seen a keyboard warrior come out in public, he was wearing a hoodie and was skulking in the corner. So, yeah,
And then turned into somebody different, and, oh, well, okay, well, that's it, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, well, I didn't mean to do that, and don't tape me, and don't put that camera in my face. And yeah, it's a completely different person. And then the second they walk away, then it's back to the troll person. Oh, I should get in a fight with these people. And it's like, relax. You're not saying any of those things in anybody's face. You're trying to hide out in corners. It's just ridiculous. Come out in public. That's why, these people that are afraid to use their real names, and, a lot of them are globe believers. I don't get. It's just, well, I don't want to say I don't get it. I agree that anybody should have that right. If you want to remain anonymous, and remain anonymous. And if you want to come out with your face, well, what you're doing is you're kind of saying, hey, I'm willing to put my face behind what I'm saying. But then if you're somebody who's anonymous, then you don't have the right to say shit to people who have come out and put their face on the line until you're ready to do the same. And I think there's so much of that, that people that just have fake names, or, I would say the same thing about T.O. until obviously we have his face now. But before that, it's like you have no right to say anything to anybody who's coming out here with their face like you have, like I have, with their real names, that are willing to put their name behind what they're saying. I mean, that's how you know somebody's serious. I can't live this down. If it came out, people say, oh, this is a psyop and you work for so-and-so. Yeah, okay, well then the rest of my life is going to be in misery when it gets found out I've been lying about the flat earth, and, people will come after you like I easily found. It's just ridiculous that people would question your motives. If you're putting yourself out there like, this is me, I got to live the rest of my life knowing that I came out and said that I 100% believe that the globe is a lie. And so anybody who's going to come out and question me or have shit to say to me better be willing to do the same thing. Come out and say, hey, this is me, here's who I am, and I say that you're wrong. Well, then at least both of us have to live with that for the rest of our lives. But right now, there's so many people out there that just hide under fake names, fake accounts, troll accounts. That's just nonsense. I got one account.
What about
That's
this?
me.
Do you think that, let's say hypothetically, do you think if you wanted to defend the globe, like earnestly defend it and try to disprove flat Earth, do you think you could do a better job than all of the globies that we've met in the last few years who have been trying to disprove flat Earth?
100%.
I think
Yeah,
so too.
100%.
Like, because you would, I imagine you would probably, what, you would go to universities, you'd go talk to engineers, you'd probably do actual research. You wouldn't just be attacking people, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing that you're going to get out of that. In fact, I would be smart enough to realize that that just makes it more. We're here saying it's a deception and that these guys have no facts and that they're just coming with name calling. So to then just go and do that, you're just proving exactly what we say. And you're even showing us more that what we're saying is true when you're just coming with name calling and you've got no facts and you don't understand the model. Some guy was all pissed off in a comment section earlier on Dwayne Kellum's channel saying that I didn't understand my globe experiment was stupid because I don't understand that the planet is twisting through space and the sun is going through space and that would mess up Polaris. And I'm like, dude, like if you're going to argue with me, then at least understand the model, which you don't understand. And I don't agree with their model, but at least I understand it. I understand that Polaris is a sun like the sun, so it travels in the Milky Way galaxy exactly like the stupid sun does. So you can't just say things, well, what are you going to do with Polaris if the sun is traveling through well, they're both identical. They're both moving identically together through space. So it's just things like that where I could do so much of a better job by just understanding their model. And that's what I think is different about me than even a lot of flat earthers. And nothing bad against them. They are all doing their own part. Everybody does their own part. But I think that I at least understand the model, and I'm learning more about it every day. It does no good just to keep spitting nonsense. What I'm trying to find is by learning the model, by kind of ripping it apart and finding out how it was built, who built it, when they built it, what was their motives. By doing that and understanding the model, that's how you can defeat it, because then you can find the holes in it. If you just go around saying, well, water never curves, well, very true, but that's probably not something that's going to be easily proven one way or the other. So I feel like there is, and I still hold on to hope. I think that there's something out there that is a huge proof against the globe that we just haven't found, because I think just the way they describe things, the way they talk it out, the way they talk it through, we're missing something. There's something that is easy. I've said it before, I'll say it now, that's kind of crazy, but part of me still thinks, in fact, if I had to bet $1,000 one way or the other, I would say that the moon goes behind the sun. That's just me, and when I say that, people are like, lose their minds. What the hell are you talking about? The moon definitely is, they lose their minds. But what they don't realize is just watch what happens every freaking month when the moon comes around to be on a new moon and you don't see it. It's gone. So I say it's going behind the sun, and something like that would break the globe's back. If that ever came out, it's done. It's over. They can't recover that. And so I think that's kind of one of the things I'm talking about, that to me, there's actually a contest of who can take an image of the moon the soonest after new moon, and the record's something like 44 hours, which means that between those 44 hours after new moon, that it's not even possible to take an image with like a thermal camera of the frickin' moon. It makes no sense if anybody just thinks about it rationally, that the moon is up there in the sky and the sun's behind it and we just can't see it, that it's just washed out in blueness and we just don't see it. I say bullshit. I think the moon's going behind the sun. That's why when we see that first, whatever you call it, the first crescent, it's because if you kind of picture it, well, for 44 hours, it's still behind the sun. It's not till it starts coming around the front of it that we see that first crescent. But I say that and people lose their minds. And that's what I'm talking about. It's because you've been taught that the moon is definitely closer than the sun. And so anybody saying, well, the moon might be, but I think we need to open it up to a lot more things like that. Like all these things that we were taught need to be brought into question until proven. I mean, we can't just say, we can't accept some things that the globe gives us and not others. Like, we have to really, and that's what got me on this trip from the very beginning, is my wife and I saying, screw this, we're done. We're not believing anything until we can prove it to ourselves. Because we went through religion, saw that was a lie, went through science, saw that was a lie, and just said, forget it, man. Every single human being that I've ever run into has basically lied to me at some point. And then, I mean, my dad, my mom, everybody, everybody's lied to us. So to just trust anybody anymore is not a smart move. I think it's better to evaluate every single thing. And even I have trouble with that. But I mean, at least I'm open when I hear people say things. I don't just dismiss it outright. So no, that's bullshit. Nope, we've been taught differently. Well, of course we've been taught differently. And if there was something that was an absolute globe buster or globe breaker, it would be hidden in such a way that we were taught it at such an age that nobody would dare question it. So I still hold on to that hope that I think that we're all trying to find these little proofs and little, experiments or whatever. But I bet you there's a big one. I don't know when we'll find it, but I bet you it's easier than we think. And that's why this is such a big deception, because otherwise it looks kind of like, well, a lot of the globe ideas and proofs kind of work out in reality. Their whole stupid program kind of fits. But there might be that one thing, like the moon being actually further, and that is actually a Vedic belief also. Vedic cosmology says that the moon is further than the sun. However, they say it's like fucking, 700 million miles away or something. So I'm certainly not saying believe that. But it has been talked about in the past that the moon could possibly be further than the sun. So I know it's crazy, but
That would
hey,
fit
I'm
the
crazy.
MO. It would fit the MO where they invert or they reverse everything. Like we see the moon rising in the east or moving from the east going towards the west, but we're told it's going the opposite direction, just a little
Right.
bit, slower than our spin. And I'm like, wait, that is them doing a 180 on reality. So it would fit their MO. And on your point about knowing the model, there's this paradox I've observed where if you want to know about a Bible, ask an atheist. If you want to know about
Right.
heliocentrism, ask a flat earther, because they're the only ones who have studied their own models and the opponent's model as well.
Yeah, it was just somebody the other day I was talking to where they wanted to basically have a debate, and I just asked them the one question. I said, answer this question, and it was already typed out, but it basically said, what is the relationship to the sun to the earth which of the following is true? And basically said that, during our winter, during the northern's winter, that the sun is 3 million miles closer. And of course, they answered the wrong answer. And I said, no, I'm not going to. And they said, the sun cannot be 3 million miles closer during our winter. I'm like, see, that is the truth. And yet you don't even know that. And you want to debate me on your model. I'm not even going to give you the time of day. Those kind of things are the reasons I'm a flat earther, because that's not true. I can see the sun right above my head during the damn summer. It's right here. It's beating hot on me. It's 110 degrees where I live. And then during the winter, it's way the hell over there in the south, so far away from me, and it's freezing cold here. So it's like, okay, well, anybody who says that the sun is 375 Earth diameters closer during the winter is full of shit. And those are the kind of things that are important to me that made me become a flat earther. And if somebody can't even know that, then I don't expect them to understand why I'm a flat earther. So of course you're going to come at me and say, oh, what a joke you are, and you believe, yeah, well, of course you think that. If you still think that the sun is closer to us in our summer, then you wouldn't have an idea of why I'm a flat earther. But it's a combination of that, water not bending. There's a million things, right? The ships at the sea is so huge for me. Things that they lied about when
Yeah.
we were children about, oh, the water goes down the opposite direction. And we all grew up with that. That was told to you as a fact. And when you get to this age and you realize it's not, you're like, hold on a second. You don't tell lies to people to get the truth across. It's just not necessary. If the fucking Earth's a globe, it's a globe. End of the story. You don't need to lie to me to get it. It's a globe. But they had to tell all these lies. They had to make up all these stories. Oh, the water goes down the opposite direction. And, when you realize those things, you're like, well, if you're lying to me, there's a reason. And when you taught me the dumbest thing you can be in the earth is a flat earther, and then you start looking into it, you're like, wait, there's a lot of fucking things in this whole story that seem to match up, and the flat earth looks like it's got a lot going for it. Why would you teach me it's the dumbest belief that there is? That's all I need, basically, to say, oh, you you guys are lying. The flat earth is the truth. Because there's no other reason why you would teach somebody, oh, flat earth is the dumbest thing you can be on earth. I mean, look at Capitol Hill. If you call another politician a flat earther, that makes front page news.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Senator Johnson called Senator Watkins a flat earther. I mean, it's like, that should tell you something. It's like, well, what's so stupid about believing that we live on a flat earth? Well, when you are only told what we're told in school, then it looks really stupid because you just talk about, oh, water falling off the edge, and that makes no sense, and you can go around the earth and you come back to where you started. Okay, great. Flat earth is dumb. But all you need to do is spend a day researching it and say, oh, here's the azimuthal equidistant map. Oh, I see. You can fly around it east-west. And, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then, oh, well, it's got this ice wall going around it that holds in all the water, so now the water doesn't fall off. Well, there, your two reasons for it being the dumbest belief of all time have just been solved. And then you ask a question like, well, how many people have circumnavigated north-south? It's like one or two. And billions have gone east-west? Sorry, the Earth's not a globe.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that too. The whole pay no attention to the man behind the curtain makes me look behind the curtain. And I call flat earthers the real mythbusters because we are like the kid in the Emperor's New Clothes. You know, all the adults and authority figures are entranced and they're not paying attention or they're not actually allowing themselves to see the fact that the emperor has no clothes. And so we have to be the kid who says the guy's not wearing anything. You know, we have to be the mythbuster because nobody else is. We're
Yeah,
so
that's, I mean, like we said, science, and people always say, where's your credentials? Let me see, where's your, it's like my credentials is, that's what you need to be happy about, is that we don't have credentials, because if we did, we would just believe what we're saying is a lie. And, we don't have the resources at all to take textbooks and put our lie in them and then teach the world. So thank goodness we don't have college credentials, or we didn't go to graduate school, because if we did, we would surely believe exactly what the textbooks told us to believe. And
right.
there's not very many people coming out of graduate school that are open-minded and think outside the box. That's not what they teach you at graduate school.
That's right. And when someone asked Joe Rogan, why do you believe in the Apollo despite the fact that the moon rocks were all petrified wood? He said, because I'm not a scientist. And I was like,
Right.
wow. He's basically saying remain scientifically illiterate and believe in the experts. And I'm like,
Yeah, one of
okay,
the best things you said real early on, just like probably the first time I ever heard you on your channel, and I heard you say that then you might as well believe in every religion. And I thought that was the best thing said, because it's absolutely the truth. That if you're going to say that, then you better be a Catholic and you better be, a Hasidic Jew, because there's definitely priests that have put in years of study into theology, gone to the seminary, put in tons more research than you have, and they believe in God and Jesus and the whole thing. So you better believe it too. Or are you capable of saying, well, I'm going to use my own mind and make my own decisions? Sure, that's their job. So I'll take a look at what okay, here, give me your paperwork, priest. I'll look through it and see what you got, and let me see your paperwork, Neil deGrasse. And then you can make up your own mind. You don't need to just say, oh, these guys have studied it, well, then therefore I bow down to everything they say, or else you better be a believer in every religion and believer in anything. You better believe in immunizations and everything, because obviously these organizations, these companies that are making these vaccines for your children, they know more than you. So why would you even question, no, so what, a couple kids are getting autism, who cares? These people obviously know what they're doing. They have your best interest at heart. It's ridiculous that
yep.
anybody would have that kind of stance.
And for someone like Joe Rogan to come out with that, he also said when he was talking about how flat earthers are a bunch of criminals and worse, he was saying that we were pedophiles and criminals and uneducated. He was saying these horrible things, but he said, I don't care if you're 40 years old and you spend 6 hours a day talking about flat earth, but I worry about the 14-year-old and the 15-year-old who can't think for themselves, hearing what you're saying and taking you seriously. So
Right.
Joe Rogan comes out as this like he's an outsider thinker. He does hallucinogenics. He does mushrooms or peyote or whatever, and he acts like he's the new incarnation of Timothy Leary. He's outside the box, and here he is being a spokesmouth for power, for for elitists, and for their orthodoxies. He's saying don't disagree with the authorities. I'm like, wow, that guy
And he
did it in a
said,
180.
you're just if you're just some guy in your in your office doing research, or that's not research. That's not. It's like, so what is research to Josephine Rogaine? Research is when you go to a college and you learn word for word out of a book. That's his idea of research. So what do you think is going to come out of that if what the book is saying is a lie? You're going to have a bunch of well-trained liars. And that's basically what we're saying has happened here. And for somebody who just can't see that, is shocking, because the very least that should happen is anybody should look at it and say, okay, well, let's say that these flat earthers might be right. So the whole human race should turn to people like NASA, like SpaceX, and demand proof, because it would end the whole fucking thing. Either prove that what you're saying is true, and we tell these flat earthers that they were idiots, or we're going to find out that they were right and that you've been fooling the human race. But instead, NASA hasn't had to answer to anything. SpaceX doesn't have to answer to anything. They can keep floating down their helium balloons. They can keep sending up their rockets into the ocean. And the whole time, they've got a whole army of people that go around and defend them and say how great they are and how much they've contributed to the human race, when it's been absolutely nothing. There's absolutely nothing that you have or I have or anybody has that they wouldn't have if it wasn't for NASA. Absolutely nothing. There's nothing that they've done. They've just spent money. They've got a tin can in orbit of the Earth. They can't even take a 24/7 view of the Earth. They've done nothing. They're out there, oh, we got space capsules overlooking at Jupiter. Oh, you mean someplace that's a gas giant? What the fuck are you doing? A gas ball, a ball of gas in the middle of space, and we're supposed to give a shit? Oh, it's got a red spot. It's a big storm. Yeah, it's also a billion miles from here. What the hell are you doing? Get back to Earth when everybody's fed here and everybody's got something to drink and everybody grows up in a house and they're not out in the cold. Then we can start talking about your gas planets. But until then, you're an idiot if you're even thinking about any planet other than the one that you're on. And they've convinced people that, like, this is cool. Because look at our CGI. Look at our pretty ball of Jupiter. It's a ball of gas with a storm on it. Look how pretty it's got moons that go around it. And people are like, oh, look at the moons of Jupiter. Galileo discovered those, in 1600. It's just such a joke.
Talk about malfeasance. And when I went to the city council, that's what I called it. I didn't say the earth is flat because I knew how that would be taken, but I just said, hey, we're dealing with malfeasance, and it's the moral equivalent of giving 50 million bucks a day to Hollywood. And that's what it really is, because that kind of money, it's not just the 50 million a day, it's the fact that they took that money from the productive ones who know how to earn money, who know how to create value. So it's a parasitical organization, no accountability, and it's indefensible. Like, I can at least say Elon Musk, if it's private, I'm cool with it. But even that, if we're footing the bill for it, yeah, it has to stop.
Yeah, I know. And when I found out too that NASA takes the things that they invent, and then after they're done using them or whatever, they sell it to companies. So if they get a patent, they then sell it to a company, and then the company turns around and charges us a upcharge on the product that they make, when we're the frickin' ones who paid for the research. It doesn't make, it's like, I mean, what kind of world would that be where that takes place, and yet that's where we live? That we're the ones. It's like the same thing with the Space Center. They've got the Kennedy Space Center where you can go and tour and all. It's like $125 to go there, and it's like, wait, time out. My money is responsible for building everything that you have there. How can you take my money, build a theme park with it, and then say, oh, here, come check out the theme park that you paid for. It's only $125 to check it out. It's like, no, fuck you. I paid for that with my taxes. NASA doesn't, where did NASA get money from? They get money from us. It's just ridiculous that people don't see that, and yet they've got this tin can going in a circle for 16 years, and all they ever say is like, oh, and what have you guys done recently? Oh, we're actually doing a lot of important scientific experiments, and we're furthering the knowledge scientifically of all the science that we're doing here on orbit. It's like, oh, thanks a lot, geniuses.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, their experiments consist of food coloring and water bubbles. Like, I haven't seen anything more complex than that. Have you? I seriously have not.
No, they said, I think one girl said that she sequenced the genome in space. Like, what the hell would that do? Why would you sequence the genome in space? We don't live in space. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I can't even fathom how they've gotten it this far. I don't even think they could have ever dreamt that they would get this far. But maybe they did. Maybe they're that crafty. There's no way they could have been filming that moon landing in some sort of bunker somewhere and then said, oh, this will last till 2020. That nobody will, there's no way. They couldn't have done that, but maybe they did. I just don't know how it's even possible that you could have that kind of balls and be putting out the crap that they put out And yeah, I mean, there's no pictures of Earth. I mean, it's like, yeah, you've got these satellites touring around Saturn and going through its rings, but you can't just send one out 8,000 miles, turn around and take a video of the Earth. It's 2017. This isn't like 1940. I mean, you can go buy a camera for $300 that can take 18 megapixel film that can record video that's 4K for like $300. And these guys get $52 million a day and haven't provided an image of Earth except for one from a million miles that is still admitted a composite. Oh, well, it's actually 4 different color images composited, put on top. Not that I believe that for a split second, but it's just, and it's so easy to fake. And the crazy thing is too, when you call out these fanboys for it, they will give NASA all this, ability. Like, oh yeah, we easily are talking to the Voyager spacecraft that's 13 billion miles from Earth. That makes sense to them. But when I say something like, they're like, well, how does the ISS work? And I say, well, it's a bunch of high altitude planes that are up there taking images. They're like, oh my God, do you know how many planes that would take? Do you know how hard that would be to keep construct? It's like, you just gave them communication with a device that's 13 billion miles from Earth, still communicating with Earth in orbit, traveling away, and they'll give them that. But when you dare say high altitude planes, or maybe it's a high altitude balloon, they're like, oh my God, that could never happen. Like, what are you smoking? You got to be kidding me. That's like child's play to them. It's like, let me think. A DirecTV satellite, DirecTV pays $350 million to pop that thing up in the sky, and they're like, well, we could just put this big contraption on this balloon, send it up, and tell people let's say it costs them $100 million. Let's say in a mere, well, that's $250 million pocketed for that deception. And people act like, oh no, it's just too crazy of a thing. There's no way you could have that many people in on some hoax. Well, when there's $250 million on the line, you'd be surprised what anybody would do. I've told that story before. That, have some friends over your house for a party and put $500 on the table, maybe stuff it underneath a little plant or something. And I bet you at the end of that party, you'd be pretty lucky if that $500 is still there. But now make it so that when they're coming in the door, somebody tells them, hey, by the way, there's $500 on that table. Nobody will know that you took it if you take it. Now the chances that $500 is there at the end of the party is pretty slim. Now start upping that amount. $1,000, $5,000, $1 million, $5 million. Guess what? People will lie to your face. They will steal your wife. They'll take take everything you own if it means that they get that kind of money, and especially if they're told nobody will ever find out. So it's easy for me to see where all these guys are brave enough to just deceive you left and right because they're making money off it.
Yep, exactly. And they have all the support of the people around him. Like, I think people have too much faith in their authority figures that are presented before them. Like, Lion Brian Williams was caught in so many lies, and they went back through the years, and it wasn't Lion Brian Williams who was telling lies. It was the entire network that let him get away with it. And so what I see here is that these people are bound by mutually blackmailable material. They've all lied. They all know. They're all in on it. And it's kind of like a club. They fancy themselves as being elite. I think it's a very elitist mentality to think that it's okay for you to rip everybody else off to get ahead. And that's what
that means I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, with Freemasons, and those guys they have an oath, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, the oath is specifically saying, I mean, it's implicit that anybody outside the temple is wandering in the darkness. And so when you're swearing to keep everybody out, you're swearing to keep them in ignorance. And I think that's kind of saying, if you're willing to swear in the Bible that you will defend the lodge from any incursions from the outside, you're basically selling out the human race. You're saying, all right, if I'm taught some great secret that might make a difference, maybe some secret about the soul or the nature of life or something, I'm not going to tell anybody. And I'm not going to tell. And to me, that's just like, it's a way of filtering people into the system who will serve it willingly.
Right. And that's what's so scary about the UK. And, I don't know how prevalent it is here, but in the UK, I mean, every cop is a Freemason. And how is that even allowed? Because, of course, if there's some sort of corruption you need to throw or you need to plant some evidence, well, everybody has to be in compliance with that because they can't throw you under the bus. They can't. That's a fellow brother. They can't do anything against. So I mean, again, you're playing the deck is stacked. I mean, against the normal person who might be trying to be honest, who might be trying to actually live a normal life and not infringe on other people. And if you run into the wrong group of people, well, they're going to just trample on you because that's what is okay in their walks of life or whatever they're doing. And it just seems like that's what's going on everywhere. And it's you don't have to be a Freemason to do that. I mean, if you are part of the police department and you become friends with all these police officers, and then you become partners with one, and you guys are out on the beat every day, and one of them accidentally shoots somebody, and he turns to you and says, hey, make sure you say that guy came at me first. What do you think's going to happen? It's just going to happen.
Yeah, I saw it in the military. When I learned about Freemasonry when I was in the military because there were so many of them. And I remember overhearing a conversation where a certain sergeant was passed over for a promotion because he didn't belong to the right club. And I started asking around, what club was he talking about? And that's how I found out about it. And so yeah, it's not difficult. I mean, corruption is ubiquitous, but when you have organizations that are designed to elevate corrupt people to the top, that's the problem. And we have like, I mean, the people who are our trusted authorities, our leaders, they're all essentially compromised in some way.
Right. You wouldn't be there if you weren't.
Precisely. Exactly.
Which that's why you need a tear down of the whole system. And the crazy thing is we have the numbers. I mean, that's the one thing that they don't want anybody to know, or the one thing that probably scares them to death is that there's, I don't know how many percentage of people are good quality people, but let's say 90%. So, I mean, the numbers are on our side hugely. It's just they've convinced a lot of that 90% that they're doing nothing wrong, and that 9/11 was box cutter carrying Arabs, and that Orlando happened, and that San Bernardino 1, 2, and 3 happened.
Yeah. Well, if anything, that's a cause for optimism. I always say I'm optimistic because if they didn't fear a mass awakening, they wouldn't have to do everything in secret, and they would be walking all over us openly instead of hiding in the dark, using secret languages and occulting everything. So the fact that they have to do it in secret says something. I think it's that, yeah, obviously they want us to think that human beings are just violent and warlike and destructive, and the reality is we're all born with empathy. Like, I've noticed this thing. There's two big lies. They want you to think that without government, we would all be criminals. We'd all be raiding each other's homes. And then the second one, without religion, we would all be sinning like crazy. We'd all be wicked. And it's like, no, we're not all wicked criminals, but they benefit from us thinking so. And it really is just them. They're the ones who are actually the small minority who sell us this lie. They're the ones who fit that characterization.
Absolutely, and you see it too with the reason that they love religion. A lot of people think, oh, there's separation of, oh, the state hates religion. No, there's a reason why you don't pay taxes if you're a religion, and it's because you create a complacent population. As long as those people are showing up for Sunday service and Wednesday Bible study, and believe that the meek will inherit the earth, and that Jesus will come back and end any signs of tyranny, then you've got a pretty good run of the place. And that's what it looks like to me, at least when I look at the world. That's all I can base that's all I can base my decisions on, is what I see in front of me. And when I look across the world, I see the exact result of exactly that you've got a religious group of people, and you've got science. And I've said this before, that a lot of people say, oh, Jaron, you went to a Jesuit high school. And I absolutely did, but I think that was important to my understanding now, because I saw that I went from religious class to biology, and that's why I became jaded with school, sophomore year, basically saying, what the hell is this? I thought, because I was Catholic at the time, and said, why am I being taught religious stuff, and then in the next class I'm being taught evolution? It's like, well, what the hell is this? Well, now I look at it and say, well, it's obvious. The Jesuits want you to be one or the other. That if you're religious, then they've trapped you. And if you're scientific, then they've trapped you. They don't care which one you end up in, because both groups are controlled. The absolute thing that they're the most afraid of is the middle position. The person who thinks on their own, that says, I'm going to take from science what is true, and I'll take from religion what I feel is true and what works for me, and then I'll operate my life from there. They don't want that. That's the last thing they want. They want you either being religious or scientific. And so I think that was a huge part of my upbringing, is just seeing exactly what the Jesuits were doing. They didn't care about which one you ended up in, as long as you ended up believing fully in one.
Right. Like they don't care if you believe in the second coming or global warming, as long as you believe in some doomsday scenario plausible that the government can help you with or save you from, and or some authority figure. They need you to believe in one of these, and they don't care which one it is, as long as you buy into one of them.
Right, and they both have their end days, right? You know, the meteor that's going to come strike you, or you know, the end of the world is coming, and it's going to be the tribulation, and whatever it is to keep you in fear and to keep you thinking that the government's important. You know, it's well crafted. I've said it often. I tip my cap. I'm not a dirtbag like them, but what they've done is masterful, and it's wicked in all areas, and you know, I'll do what I can to end it. But it's when you stand back and look at it, like, man, how can you pull off this kind of deception? I mean, look at it. 6 billion people think they live on a spinning ball held in nothingness. That's what space is. It's the absence of everything. Yet they call it the fabric of space-time, right? The fabric of nothingness, I guess. And then they'll just tell you, well, gravity holds it there. And if you tell somebody you're a flat earther, they'll say, well, what holds your sun and moon in the sky? You're like, well, what holds the Earth in space? Oh, gravity does. Oh, does it? Okay, great. That's fantastic that you believe that. Simply, and then they'll drop a pen. Here, I'll drop this pen. See, that's gravity, and that proves that the Earth, the gigantic Earth ball, is held in space in the nothingness because you can drop a pen.
Yeah, that's a good point. In fact, I was talking to Brian Hickey from the Philly Voice, and he said, "How did you come to believe this thing?" And it's like it's not really about what I've come to believe; it's what I've come to disbelieve after examining how little there was holding it up. And I was like, "You believe in satellites, but you've never seen a picture, an image, or anything other than CGI and cartoon images. Look it up. You've accepted satellites on faith." And when I said that, he suddenly started paying attention. And then we actually had a number of interviews because he wanted to write a story about it because he recognized that this isn't about believing something crazy like flat Earth. It's about not believing stuff that we can't possibly know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is the whole idea of stars being. I mean, people believe that a 95-year-old man with failing eyesight can wander out in front of his house. He can't read a newspaper or read a book anymore. His eyes are too gone. But he can look up in the sky and see something 25 trillion miles away. That's what people believe. And they don't question it. They just say, oh, that's the closest star is 25 trillion miles away. And that is part of what I think we need to do more of, is because I have a buddy that I think is smart. He hasn't been real interested in the flat earth or talking about it, so we haven't really discussed it much. But the other day he was out front, we're having a cigarette, and I just asked him, like, hey, how far is the moon? He's like, what? I don't far. Like, no, how far is it? It's like, I don't know, 1,000,000 miles. I'm like, all right, how far is the sun? He's like, I don't know, 500 million miles. I mean, things like that just make me go like, okay, I think sometimes I forget that I don't think people even know any of it. I mean, do they know that the closest star to it? I mean, you can go outside right now and look at the stars; they're right there. Yet the closest star to us is 25 trillion miles away. 25 trillion. And I think Dirth said it best when he says, "Do you know how long a trillion seconds is?" Because you're like, "Oh, a trillion seconds. I don't know how." 33,000 years, and then 25 trillion miles is the closest star. It's fucking bullshit.
Yeah, and they seem to like telling us that some of the stars are dead, and it's just the light from dead stars. Like, I think they like turning everything into death, into coldness, and into just this absence of life, and that life itself is some type of a blip, just an accident. And that's why I call it nihilistic. I think that heliocentrism brings with it cause for nihilism, and a lot of the so-called philosophers of the 20th century pushed a lot of nihilistic subtext, like life has no meaning, it's all an accident anyway, and human beings are just rotten. They keep pushing that, and I think it's part of the continuation of the concept of original sin. That just by being born, we're all bad. That the human race is bad and needs to be managed. I think they collectively lowered our self-esteem, and I think the way we really wake up from this is we turn that around and The star thing, the distances involved, it's not even possible to contemplate it, and that's they put it outside of your range. They put it in an
Right.
area where you have to defer to experts. Like, oh, you have to be a
And you can't,
mystic to
can't
talk to.
model it or anything.
You can't model it, and you can't communicate it. It's like you need to talk to a shaman or a witch doctor or a priest to talk to God. You need the vicar of Christ. You need a scientist to tell you about the stars because you can't get it. And I think they put it out of your reach on purpose.
Yeah, it's like they say they can measure the parallax of stars and things like. I mean, Polaris is 2.6 quadrillion miles away, which is 2,600 then 0.00000000000 ridiculous stupid number. And then they'll talk about the parallax that they see with these two stars. They're like pretending they can measure the change when you couldn't measure the change in if we moved a tree an inch a mile away from you, you wouldn't be able to even optically see that, but yet you're going to tell me you can see changes in star distances that are 2.6 quadrillion miles. It's all just like you said. So you defer to authority because it's too crazy for you to think about, but somebody must have done it, right? Somebody observed. I see people in comment sections all the time like, oh, you don't know about stellar parallax and we can measure a change. That you've never measured shit. Never measured shit. You just have given over that thought to somebody else. Like, here, this person must have measured it because somebody must have. But really, when you start going back, you end up at places like Cavendish's shed for the weight of the Earth. I mean, I still think people think that we've measured the distance to the sun. Nobody's measured the distance to the sun. The way they know the distance to the sun is because they calculated Venus going across it. And then the whole thing, when you just need to go back and look at how this is all crafted. Nobody's measured the distance to the sun, and nobody's measured the size of Venus or anything. It's all with their calculations. And well, Venus is going across, and we're talking about in 1700. They're saying somebody observed Venus crossing the sun from two different locations on the Earth that are on completely different ends of the Earth. Now, how did they communicate? So you're talking about somebody who has to use a pendulum clock to calculate when it crossed. Somebody else on the other side of the Earth had to use the same tool. Then they had to get in their little boat and travel for 4 months and then get together and talk. And we're supposed to believe that now? It's ridiculous.
Well, and the word "we" is the key here. When they say "we," like we landed on the moon in 1969, we won the
Right.
Super Bowl. It's like, no, you sat on the couch and you drank beer, or no, we didn't land on the moon. Some people claim they did. They use the word "we," and they make it into a collective achievement. So the moon landing is a source of
Right.
cultural pride, and it's just vanity. Like I ran into someone at Walmart talking about this. He was like, "Oh, we landed on the moon in '69," and I look at the guy thinking, "No, we didn't. It was done in our name, but no, you didn't. You didn't go to the moon." And yeah, it's all hearsay.
Yeah, and again, even if you're somebody who I've had somebody come to me, how dare you question moon landings? My grandpa helped build the Saturn V. I'm like, fantastic. I mean, your grandpa could have helped build the muffler on my Ford Focus. It doesn't mean I can claim that I drove to fucking Hawaii. I mean, it's just not. You can't say that. I mean, that'd be like me saying I drove to Hawaii, and somebody saying, no, you didn't. You can't. What? How dare you say my grandfather worked on the muffler of that car? It's like, no, great. The muffler worked, and Saturn V was built, and yeah, people built it, and they watched it on TV. They saw it go up, and of course, if you spend all that time building something, this is what people need to see: is that they've taken advantage of everybody. They took advantage of your heartstrings. They took advantage of your ingenuity. They said, here, build this craft, and people built it, and they felt real prideful about it, and they saw it on TV go up, and immediately, as soon as it goes up, they're going to be high-fiving their friends, telling their family about it. I helped build that thing. They don't even pay attention that it goes out into the ocean because it's not important to them, and nobody would ever think, did I just build that rocket so that it would go out and get drenched in the ocean? Of course not. It's the same thing with all these scientists that build these satellites right now, is they would never question it because they've spent 6 months putting together, which is the most ridiculous looking things ever, these satellites, but they spent 6 months building it, making it mathematically perfect, and everything's all lined up and perfect, and then they see it, they don't actually see it go to space, they see the capsule that supposedly has their little satellite in it, they see it get launched on TV, and they've got all this pride. Who wouldn't be filled with pride? Like, hey, I helped build something that's going up to space, but you can't even question it because you would be questioning your last 6 months. Like, did I really just... It's just something that people can't do, and that's part of the craftiness of the whole thing, And when you realize that it's all mathematical, then it's easy to see that all it would take is one person who's behind the curtain who sends back data that's exactly what you would expect. So I built this rocket, I built this satellite, it's supposed to go up there and get in this orbit, and then what do I get back on my computer screen? I get the exact data I'm expecting. And every once in a while, throw a little curveball at people. Make it wait 10 seconds to where they're like, oh my goodness, my thing's not responding. And then it comes through like, whew, that was close. I thought, okay, good, we're all good again. It's so easy to do. Those people would never question what they're doing. And the person who's at the top or behind the curtain, they can make it whatever they want. They can just keep spitting out these mathematical formulas and tell you exactly where this Juno craft is in orbit of Jupiter. And if you can't go up there and disprove it, what are you going to do?
Oh, it's like an oracle, like the oracle at Delphi. The idea that there is one person who has a special access to information that no one else can, and then that person's statements can't be questioned. And right now, our reality is filtered through oracles, through CGI oracles and computer models. And with regards to
Absolutely.
people saying like there is no secret too big to keep. It doesn't matter that 400,000 people might have worked on the Apollo. It only takes a few people when it's compartmentalized like that.
Oh, and they're excellent at that. I mean, that's been proven already that nobody knows what the left hand's doing, and it'd just be really easy. That's why you have these departments, and hey, you're in charge of building this particular piece, and then you ship it off to the parts department, and you feel like you've done your job. I mean, you're never going to say, well, could I be just building some nonsense thing and then every other department's building? I mean, it's not even something that human beings can question. And I think that's all done by design. I mean, that's exactly why they have it compartmentalized. That's exactly why they have, Neil deGrasse and Bill Nye as their spokespeople, because when you've invested so much, and Bill Nye's gone around and preached to kids, and Neil deGrasse thinks he's smart and runs a planetarium and talks to people on stage, those people are not capable of questioning the entire body of work. That it just is impossible. They may hear, hey, you got to go protect this flat Earth stuff's getting out. People are talking about the flat Earth, and they'll just go and do the best they can at protecting it because they think it's crazy. I think it's easier to have those kind of people than it is to have liars, because liars could slip up. But somebody like Neil deGrasse really can't slip up. I think he believes it 100%. I think he thinks he's smart. He thinks he's better than everyone. He thinks he's got his degree. He's spoken to people his entire life. All his friends are in the industry. So I think that's your best weapon, because the guy just thinks he knows it all and can go around and just feel like, hey, I'll just go to this Joe Rogan show, and I'll just go and anytime they tell me to go, hey, Katy Perry mentioned this, okay, I'll go take care of that. But I think it's even easier if they are not in the know that what they're actually talking about is a lie, because
Yeah,
that's when you can't question everything that you've ever done. If you're a liar, then you kind of feel bad the whole time. Maybe you slip up, maybe you say something you're not supposed to. But when you believe it, that's your best weapon.
yeah, that's true because the conviction of it, and then I think you pointed this out when Neil deGrasse Tyson was asked about the curve of the Earth, and he said, "Huh? The gravity drop?" Like
Right,
he had no
exactly.
idea what he was talking about. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's more than likely that this guy's a useful idiot, and they keep him that way by keeping him in
Right.
a compartment.
Yeah, I think if he was, part of the club and knew that he would have those kind of facts ready. But yeah, when Joe Rogan asked him, he's like, "Oh, what's the curvature on 1 mile? I don't know. What's the gravity drop?" And yeah, he had no idea, because that's if you're an astrophysicist, you've never talked about the curvature of the Earth, because that is something that is so far menial in your work that you would never even look at that. It's not. I mean, if you're an astrophysicist, you're into that realm of science, so it is obvious that the Earth's a ball. Otherwise, you wouldn't even be anywhere near that study. So I think, yeah, when I heard that, I was like, man, this guy doesn't know shit. And yeah, he gets called. I mean, crazy, because as soon as this flat Earth stuff, I mean, he was on Joe Rogan within like 2 days. Same thing with um, Shaquille, and then going on Kerbert's show. It happened within 2 days, and it's like these things. For me, I don't know how much those guys know. I don't know. Seems to me like Shaq maybe said it because he really feels it. I don't know. I know I'm probably in the dark on that one. A lot of people don't have that same opinion, but I think then it was told to him hey, now you're going to go on the show and you better say that you were lying. And I think that Jimmy Curver said, I think he believes it that we live on a ball, that it's an outrageous thought that we don't. And so he's easily able to call Shaq on and say, you were kidding, right? I mean, come on, I can see the curve from the roof of my house. Those kind of people, I think, are beneficial to them, and that's what the whole world is full of.
You call them
The whole
true
world.
believers. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like the people who like run Scientology know it's a scam, but they need the true believers a couple of steps down to be the true believers, to be the public face. But yeah, their
It's
controllers
like
know
for
exactly.
a while, I thought, like when I first started dealing with Red's rhetoric, I thought, hey, this guy probably is working inside or knows the truth. And the more I dealt with him, the more I said, no way, this guy is so much more effective because he believes it. And he goes to all their launches. He loves it so much that he goes and films all their launches. I mean, what is more of a useful asset than that? It's somebody that they don't pay, that they don't have to even deal with, they don't have to talk to, that simply because he is so far invested into it. And as soon as you have a channel and you start calling people names and you start saying how right you are, there's no longer a position for you to ever say, oops, I fucked up. This isn't true. It's simply you will go to your deathbed believing it because you put that much invested into it. So I mean, at this point, I think that he absolutely believes everything. And every launch he goes to, he thinks that's real. He thinks what's happening is absolutely, even though he's never seen anything go to space, he sees the rocket go up, and then they flip scenes to that stupid scene of the rocket end in space, and he has no reason to question that there's no way all that he's ever seen is a hoax. And I think those people are the most beneficial to them. I could be wrong. All these people could be just lying, but when I look at it and I see how much some of them seem like they believe it, it seems to me like those people are so much more beneficial than if you have somebody whose goal is to go out and deceive you. I feel like those people, make mistakes. It's the people who actually believe in things that are, the most beneficial or the most, important to their whole movement. Is
Yeah.
you got to have people that buy into it fully.
That was what Lenin, yeah, they've been called useful idiots and stooges by the communists for years because the ones on the ground marching in the streets, they are doing the dirty work for the oligarchs, and they don't even know
Right.
it. And they're the true believers. Like I had a Marxist professor who bragged about how her car was so broken down because she was so against capitalism that she was happy with her cheap car. And it's like, meanwhile, the people who advance Marxism are all these rich oligarchs who have nothing but contempt for the poor. And meanwhile, at the bottom, they're told to glorify the poor as a class, and it's just, yeah, they're true believers.
And I
Red's
think you have
rhetoric,
to be worried.
true
The
believer.
weird thing is, why do they the one that they do a terrible job at is all these false flags, because those are so easy to spot because of the stupid actors they have. And I'm wondering why they realize how important it is to keep people who believe in these things being your cheerleaders, but like these false flags, and it may be just because they don't want to actually kill people and deal with the problems that would come from that. But I mean, the Robbie Parkers and all these characters, and the mom crying and because her son's missing in Orlando, these people are the dead giveaways because you can just tell when people are being honest. And that's why I think they don't want anybody lying about space being a ball. Although one person I do think that Carl Sagan is a liar, but that's just me. But I can just see in that guy is full of shit. But everybody else, it just feels like to me that I think like when I watch these false flags, it's so obvious that certain people are acting, and I don't really get that from at least the group like science. And think of that too. They don't have anybody. I mean, who's they got? They got Bill Nye, Neil deGrasse, and Lawrence Krauss. I mean, that's their big three. I mean, can you think of one that would be in the top three? And maybe Brian Cox. But I mean,
Yeah,
they got nobody.
that's right. And as far
Yeah,
as this,
those people are
the,
easily defeatable.
like we have all these true believers, but to me they're like people who believe what they see on at a magic show. And I think once you see through a magic trick, like somebody getting sawed in half or something, once you know how it's done behind the scenes, you can never be tricked by it again. And so I think
Right.
most people are just spellbound, and that they're way too smart to fall for this. But I mean, they think they're too smart to be fooled, but they're not. It's all an
Right.
illusion. And once the illusion is shattered, all these people will suddenly be on our side. And that's what I'm hoping
I
to trigger here is like, we need all these people who are spellbound to suddenly wake up and then get pissed about it.
I thought when this all started, I really thought it was going to be exposing the ISS, and I just found out that I don't. I guess I see things differently than people, because I really thought when my wife and I first we saw the ISS live and we're like, holy shit, this is faker than fuck. I mean, there's nothing about this that rings true at all. All we need to do is we need to go do videos and show people this ISS live, and people will all see it's a hoax, and the world will be freed of this deception. And we showed people, and people just said, that's real. I live there. It's like, what the? No, you don't. Look at it again. Look at it again. Look at all these different angles. Look, I mean, it's just, that's fake. It's faked. And I really thought that was going to be it. And so now it's just, you're right. It's now getting them to somehow see. But you're right. It's all a magic trick, because, Red's rhetoric goes around and tells people that come disprove my film. I filmed these rockets going to space. Come disprove them if you think it's fake. Show me how it's fake. But it's like, if somebody, I've seen David Copperfield make a car disappear, and there was people there live who had cameras. So it'd be like them saying, come disprove my footage. I have footage of David Copperfield making that car disappear. It's like, yeah, you do, but you're also smart enough to realize that cars don't disappear. So we know there's a trick involved. So you need to be smart enough to say, well, rockets don't come back down from 50 miles up and land vertically. So you need to be able to start looking into, well, how exactly are they deceiving us? It's probably with helium balloons floating down, who knows what. But regardless, we know that isn't what's taking place. And, why can we see magic tricks and say, okay, well, we know that this car isn't really disappearing. We know the Statue of Liberty isn't really disappearing. We know Chris Angel isn't walking through metal bars. So now we know there's a deception. Well, we need to look at NASA the same way. They say that people in rockets are going 17,000 miles per hour on their way out of the atmosphere. And that is 87 football fields in a second. That's how fast 17,000 miles per hour is. 87 football fields in 1 second. If you think you can put a human being in a craft and propel them at 87 football fields in 1 second, and they live to talk about it, you're out of your mind.
Yeah, that's right. And once you've seen through a trick, you can't unsee it. And so, like, once you saw that the ISS was bunk, you weren't able to unsee it. I can't unsee it. I watch it, and it's like,
Can't.
this is like obviously fake. It's just, it doesn't ring true, as you said.
Like spacewalks. I mean, I think they're comedy at this point. So is the moon landing footage. I mean, just go look up Apollo 17, EVAs, and watch that for 3 hours with your girlfriend on the couch. And by the end of that, if you're not just laughing your ass off, these guys are not in space. They're not on the moon. I mean, it took me when I realized, Armstrong and Aldrin, they go to the moon. They land on the moon. Here comes Armstrong down, and here comes Aldrin. They spend their 2 hours on the moon. They get back in, whatever, they're done. So when I found out that in the entire conversation between those two people, while they're on the moon, they never say the Earth. They never say, look at the Earth. And if you're not smart enough to realize that if me and you, IPS, went to the moon, and we're the first people to ever get there, the second we step foot on the moon, we would both turn and say, holy shit, look at the Earth. Take a picture of the motherfucking Earth. Look where we just came from. Look where we are. They never say that. And that is why? Because they're on Earth.
Yeah,
It's the only makes sense.
I never thought about that. That's actually a conspicuous absence, isn't it?
So conspicuous. Yeah, it's like, how do you not say, look at the Earth? Take a picture of the Earth. Let me get a picture of the Earth. Hey, take a picture of me standing in front of the Earth. Like, no, they took pictures standing with a black background. Here, get my picture. Okay, take a picture of my shoe which isn't even possible. Look at the way their cameras are on their chest, and then remember the picture of Aldrin's freaking foot in the dirt. You can't bend like that. It's not even possible. Yet people, that's the most iconic moon picture that there is. And yet, where's the picture of Aldrin or Armstrong standing with the Earth behind them? Like, look at me, I'm on the moon, there's the Earth. Which would be something that any of us would do if we went to this stupid science building in Raleigh, North Carolina, people would stand in front of that globe and say, take a picture of me. I'm in front of the Earth. Take a picture of me. Yet, when you're on the moon, you forget to do that. You just forget that the Earth is up there in the sky, 250,000 miles away. It's so ridiculous and so out of this world, and people just won't question it. They don't know those men are great heroes, and yet by 12 and 13, 14, these guys are falling all over each other. They're just dancing around up there. They're singing. They're playing golf. That's not what you do. Your life's on the line. You don't even know if your craft is going to take off the next day. I mean, you still got to ignite and launch from the moon, something that's never been done in that lunar gravity. In fact, the engines that they had from the Apollo missions had never been launched. They were engines that they put on these craft, and were never tested. I mean, those people would be shitting bricks. Yet listen to their audio. They could care less. All right, NASA, we're coming back. All right, we're about to launch. 3, 2, 1. Woohoo! Yippee! It's just ridiculous. It's so far from being reality,
Right.
And yet people eat it up. Yum, 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 yum.
Like you watch those shows where people like do dangerous jobs, like these fishing boats where they go out, and where if they're not paying attention for 1 second, they could die. Nothing you could do about it. They just fall off the boat or whatever. Where your life is in danger at some of these jobs with such high risk, and then for them, yeah, there was no sense of danger, no sense of anything. It was just like, yeah, they're in a movie. And I think people fall for it though because they've been programmed by the entertainment first. I just saw a clip from a movie Tomorrowland, which I haven't watched, and in this movie, it had it had a rocket landing, just like SpaceX. And I was like, oh look, now they're showing kids that it's normal to believe that that type of thing could happen.
Did you see the I can't think of his name. Euless. No, what is his freaking name? Alan Eustace or something. He's the Google guy who broke. Who broke Felix Baumgartner's record?
No.
It was, it wasn't even televised or really talked about. But he went over 25 miles, but he was lifted up on a balloon with just like he's basically in an astronaut suit, and he's just held by the balloon, and he lifts up. And I watched his TED Talk the other day. But it was interesting because he's talking about, and then you get up there and you see the curvature of the Earth. And then they show video of it. And, of course, he's in this dome helmet, which I'm one person who says, of course, in a dome helmet like that, the Earth is going to look curved to all those assholes. But when they show from behind, they show his feet behind him, and the ground is perfectly flat. It's the exact same thing as they did with, when Baumgartner opened his little capsule. And, again, the horizon is perfectly flat because we're not using a GoPro curvature lens. That Alan, I wanted to know if you thought that was real, because I thought it was interesting. You heard the interview with Mad Mike, and I understand he doesn't want to step on anybody's toes, but I've always had questions about that Baumgartner jump, and I don't know whether it was real or not. I know that the footage that they showed us was obviously done with GoPro fisheye lenses, and but maybe he did jump that far. But I watched, it was after that show, actually Monday night, that I watched Alan Eustace. You can look it up. It's just Alan, and then let me see if I can figure out the spelling of his name. Eustace, Alan Eustace. And I know he works for Google, but and when he talks about the price that it cost, God, do I remember what he said? It was like, double-digit millions, if I'm not mistaken. That's why I'm wondering, what exactly Mad Mike wanted to do. But I know he said go up in a balloon, and then there would be some sort of rocket launching mechanism, right, that would launch him from the bottom of the balloon.
Yeah,
Is that basically what he wants to do?
Yeah, in fact, there's a document which it can't be shared yet. He's going to release it soon, but yeah, he does have an explanation of how it's going to work, and there's a lot of questions I have about it as well. But I almost think that whether or not it turns out the way I would like it to, just the fact that it's being set up and it's going, I think that buzz itself might actually force the hand of the other side. Somebody somewhere may leak something if they think they're in danger of being exposed.
Well, I wonder if he watched the film of this Alan Eustace, which I'm not sure how much it would cost, but I think it might be cheaper than what he's planning, because basically we know balloons go up to 120, let's say, and with hydrogen I think you can even get up to 130, 140. But both so far we've seen this Alan Eustace, and we've seen Baumgartner both do it, and both times was with a GoPro lens. So, I would like to see somebody go up there and just from that 125 range, show it with a true lens. That it looks to me when they show from behind. Let me see if I can find that actual clip, which just is showing like his feet from behind. It is so flat. And if we can get somebody who shows that footage, well, then that kind of debunks right there those two fiascos, which were basically to show the curvature.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to disagree with if they see it flat from that distance. But if he wants to go 60 miles, I mean, I just don't know how you would get a rocket to go that far. But if he's got it down, hey, more power to him, because I don't understand that shit. I wouldn't be able to get a rocket to leave my front yard.
Well, yeah, and as far as whether the other guy's thing was real or not, it's like, well, hey, they faked a moon landing
Right.
to hide the flatness. So yeah, they would fake a jump at any height. They would fake. I mean, I don't put anything past them. And they give us these
Yeah.
these astronauts. They call them heroes. And I asked Mad Mike about that. I said, hey, isn't that stolen valor? They're getting the hero badge for doing what you actually do.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that it's a joke. I mean, and I always talk about it, that NASA proclaims they hire one of 4,000 applicants. And so when I hear that, and okay, they're scientific and everything, then if I picture and I was a store manager for a drugstore, I probably hired 30 people a year. And so if I picture an applicant pool of 4,000 people that are all trying to become astronauts, if one of those 4,000 gets selected, that person is going to be sharp as a whip. I mean, they are going to be top notch, be able to answer any question right when you ask it. They're going to be able to communicate with children, with adults, each other. They're going to be very scientifically minded. They're going to be able to explain their experiments. Just perfect. I mean, you got 4,000 people. You figure all of them are college educated, or at least went to the military and have education. So, these should be the sharpest knives in the drawer. And go watch any interview with any ISS astronaut, and these people are idiots. And that's going pretty far for me, because I would say I'm not even very smart, yet I will be able to talk those guys, underneath the bed in any situation. They can't even communicate. They just don't. I mean, we got this girl up there who's 666 days in space. This is like a 60-year-old woman, and I got nothing against women or nothing against people of old age, but I would pretty much assume that everyone would agree if we're sending people to space, probably your best bet isn't a 60-year-old woman. I mean, it's just not really what you should be doing. I mean, where's these young whippersnappers, fresh out of college, smart and intelligent? I mean, you want to put a 60-year-old woman into jeopardy because she's up in space? Just none of this stuff makes sense. All those guys, they can't even answer questions from children. And that's all they have to answer. Every day they stand in front of some group of school children in some gymnasium who are asking the most ridiculously easy questions, the same question. What is it like what do you eat in space? How do you sleep in no gravity? And they can't even answer those questions. They can't answer them. And it's sad, because these should be the sharpest knives in the drawer. They should be, they should talk people under a rug. I mean, it should just be obvious that these people are the cream of the crop, and instead they're basically idiots. I mean, even Scott Kelly and his brother. I mean, those guys are terrible. Listen to them talk. They're terrible.
I think they're photogenic or telegenic. Maybe they smile nice, but yeah, you're right. They're empty. I like that. The one Peg Whitman,
Yeah, her.
666 days in space, whatever. It's like you ask a question, and I would expect, talking to somebody in that position, yeah, that they would be blowing my mind. They would be saying things about the experience that would just be like highly technical. Their language, their vernacular would be that of an engineer or a scientist at the very least. But all I hear is, "I drink my pee," or it's like
Yep.
is that it? You put food coloring in little floating bubbles of water, and you brag
Right.
about your space toilet. Like, come
I think
on.
they have contests of how many times you can say the word science in a sentence, because it's always, well, we're doing a lot of science experiments to further the advancements of science, and scientifically, we're understanding all of science. And I mean, that's how they answer every single question. It's ridiculous. You're right. It's
Yeah.
always, We're drinking pee, and we do just recycle our own pee here. It's like, great for you.
Yeah, and they do use a word. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to hear an astronaut say, "Well, it's very science-y up here." The way they throw that word around.
Well, I heard Elon Musk say there's a. If you want to watch a funny video, it's called I don't know. Elon Musk gives a tour of SpaceX, and it is the most awkward conversation I've ever seen. He's like walking around the office trying to have basically lead this cameraman through his office, and he says like rocket nozzle about 15 times because he doesn't know any other name. So he just goes around. There's a rocket nozzle, and over here, this is where we build the rocket nozzles. And over here, this is another rocket nozzle. You're like, holy shit, dude, stop saying that. You sound like a joke. And at one point he says, and everything we do here at SpaceX is very science-centric.
Oh, that's
I
beautiful.
almost lost my mind. Did you not just say science-centric?
Yeah, no, that's
So,
that to me sounds like the cult lingo of a Scientologist, where every cult has its lingo and their words with their own specific meanings, and they kind of make stuff up, like awakeness. Like they make up words, and it makes sense if you're in the cult, but it does sound mind-boggling if you're just hearing it for the first time. You're like, wow, they're in on something, but no, it's empty.
science-centric. I'm like, yeah, that's a good one. So I'll drop a link here to this TED Talk where this guy shows what he did. And I don't know if it's true or not. It looks, I would say this one looks legit to me. And then I've got an image here I'll show you of because they're showing it from his GoPro cam, and of course there's the big curvature and everything. And then, oops, what just happened? Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
didn't
Let me pull this up.
explain this. Okay, so this is the actual link to the TED Talk, just so you can see that. And then let me upload this image. But yeah, when you look at the image, you're like, wow, that's so flat, and that's why I just wish we could get. And that's something we haven't got yet. Is I know we've gotten balloon footage from that high, but I think it makes a big difference when it's a person that's actually up there. And so far, we have certainly not had any flat earthers above what 60,000 feet, 50,000 feet.
Yeah,
There just hasn't been any. So
that's what makes this one so unique. Honestly, I think this thing with Mad Mike is that a flat earther trying to go into space, like to me,
Mhm.
that's just screams Drudge Report. All the big websites would probably want to cover that because I mean, how do you ignore that?
Right, that's huge, and that's what they say to all of us, right? Like, send these guys to space, send these guys to space. It's like, well, here's somebody that wants to go, so let's do it. And I think there'd be a lot of globe earthers that will contribute to that as well.
Yeah, in fact, that's one of my goals this year is to really reach out to Globies and say, hey, we're all invested in the same truth, or supposedly you are, but put your money where your mouth is and let's contribute to this thing. And okay, here you got the picture. Excellent. And by the way, Team Gast, I want to say thanks for your contribution there. Team Gast is a P900. He's producing new content. I'll be putting a link to his channel below. Okay, here's the picture. Oh, that is the one. Let me put this up on the screen for everyone else.
Yeah,
And this
yeah,
is
that's
at
the one.
25 miles or something? Is that what you said?
Yeah, he broke. I mean, it's something they didn't even talk about, which I thought was interesting because I thought Baumgartner still had that record, but this guy actually broke it. Um, and when you see the image from, they're showing it kind of with his feet showing, and it's clearly flat, and that's all the way up. That's all the way up at I think like how high did he go? 130 or something? I don't remember how far he went. He rose above 135,000 feet. And he dove, and I kind of did some calculations on Monday night. It seemed like it was equatable to the Baumgartner as far as free fall and speed and all that. Although, I don't know if you've ever seen the Baumgartner landing is like, that's why I think I thought it was fake. Because he comes in for a landing and just like takes one step, two steps, and stops. And he's just done. And this guy here on his landing, he fucking takes a tumble. He like hits the ground and his head goes buried into the ground and he flips over, head over heels. Did you put it on the live feed or no? Oops,
Yeah,
I
it's on the
assume I
live
did.
feed now. Yeah, I see it now. I'm looking at that. And you'd have to be a pervert to think that that's a big ball.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that's just so clearly flat. And yet, from his perspective, and I guess I understand this, he says, oh, I can see the curvature of the Earth. Well, of course you could because you're in a big glass bubble. I don't know. To me, it just seems like the curved helmet would give you the appearance, especially if that's what you're looking at. I don't know. I wish somebody had a helmet, like a motorcycle helmet. I'm wondering if you put the motorcycle helmet on and looked at this image, would you see a curve? I don't know. I don't think I've ever had one on, but especially one made for that reason. And I know this suit that he's in was made by, because you can watch the TED Talk. It's interesting. It's a good 15 minutes. But he talks about the suit that he's in was made by the same people that made the Apollo suits.
Oh
So
man. Oh, okay.
again,
Okay.
you're like,
I'm sorry.
well, they just make it to make you see what you think you see, or um, and again, you might be the TED Talk. I'm not sure if you would get in trouble for putting that up, but because they show lots of images, but it looks legit. Again, he's only going. That's what's so funny is that we make such big deals about this, right? 135,000. This guy was 125,000. Yeah, people are going back and forth to the space station at 1.3 million feet all the time, like it's nothing. Just launch me up in a rocket. We connect these two parts of the craft. We just open up the hatch. We go in between here. They just make space seem like it's just. I mean, if it's that easy, we would have commercial space flight a long time ago. It's just they make it seem like it's just so easy. And then every other launch seems to blow up except for the ones that people are on. So
Yeah.
those ones never blow up. But if you send up just some supplies, well, you better watch out. That one might blow up or might blow up while it's just sitting on the stand. Just seems like they're trying to make it seem like it's dangerous. I'm still somebody who says something will happen on the ISS within this next year where a bunch of people will die. And then they will say, oh, it's too dangerous now for people to go to space, so we'll just send robots from now on.
You know what? I thought about that. That's like that could be their next Challenger explosion.
Yep.
A catalyzing event. It'll make them all heroes and martyrs. And then all the movies about the last 5 minutes. I mean, come on. It's just like,
Right.
I mean, I saw
And
that
that
subtext in
buys
the
them
movie Gravity.
what, 20 years?
Yeah.
That's what it'll do.
Well,
So,
there was
yeah,
that subtext in both Armageddon and Gravity where they made the guy who they made the astronauts into these heroes and these martyrs and these saviors who die for us. Like in Gravity, it was what's his name, the guy who died to save the chick. I don't even care about these actors' names anymore, but Matthew McConaughey, where he dies and gives the last of his whatever his oxygen tank whatever to Sandra Bullock. But the same thing with Armageddon, where at the very end Bruce Willis dies to save the planet, and they use that in the media, in the entertainment media, so that when we see it in real life, we think of them in those terms.
right.
When they're just
My wife was
actors.
watching that the other day, and she cried. And she's like, I cannot believe this movie still makes me cry. She's like, how does it still have that kind of hold on me? I'm like, I don't know. Makes me want to kick him in the face. But, for you, it just touches a different heartstring. I mean, I don't know. I just think that they know how to use that stuff. The music in the background. And, I mean, they just love that shit. And that's what they do with all these false flags, right? They put some mother up there who's talking about losing their child, and then you can't even question them because now you got every mother in the world, which is probably 35%, 40% of people, and they feel that they're like, oh man, how would that feel to lose my child? And so right there, you've just convinced 40% of the country easily that something is real and that you're not allowed to question it, and anybody who does question it is a piece of shit.
Yep. They've reintroduced this new world order religion of heliocentrism has all kinds of blasphemies and taboos and things that you should be ashamed. Like these are not science. That's not science to say you should be ashamed of having that opinion. Like scientists don't say, well, your hypothesis is different than mine. Shame on you. You should feel guilty. No, feelings and guilt, that has nothing to do with facts and with scientific methodology, but they introduce it into it.
And yeah, the big trip, I don't know if you've ever heard that. I have a video up on my channel, a debate I did on some radio station with some girl named Amy. And her and the hosts were, definitely globe indoctrinated. But towards the end, I made the mistake of mentioning a false flag, and these people lost their mind. Like, all of a sudden, I went from being just some flat earth guy to being some sort of devil. How dare I question? I had friends that died in 9/11. I knew people that knew children that died at Sandy Hook. Who are you to question these things? And it's like, dude, these people lose their mind over the thing. I mean, it ended the call. I mean, it ended the debate because they couldn't see straight anymore because somebody dare questioned Sandy Hook, and even the guy comes on after and says, there's just some things I won't allow on my program, and questioning people's tragedy is one of them. I'm like, well, go ahead and keep saying that. What do you think is going to happen in the future? That now that they know that there's something that cannot be questioned, there's something that is not allowed on your program because we can't dare question these people that lost their. Well, then you're just going to give them permission to fake anything they want, and never can it be questioned. I mean, what a joke.
Yeah, exactly. That's, to me, that's not even that's not objective analysis, it's not reporting, it's not research. That is moral outrage. And with Globies, we're dealing with moral outrage. With true believers in the mainstream media, it's moral outrage for not buying into their political opinions. And it's this that I think is the enemy. It's this outrage that comes from emotion and programming, and not from the mind or rationality or logic. They're so irrational.
Yeah, no, it doesn't come from, and really, that's the biggest thing I see missing from everything is people need to be capable. Like, we have too many people that are like hanging on every word on every flat earthers channel, whatever they say, and it's like, oh, you don't believe the same thing as me, or you do believe the same thing, and it's all about that one, whatever that topic is. And it's like, no, are we not capable of? I listen to all people's channels, and if I don't agree with something they say, I don't agree with things you say. It doesn't mean I say, oh, he's a shill. I don't trust him. I got to keep my eye on this guy. No, 95% of what you say, I love to listen to and agree with, and the 5% I don't. I listen to what you say. I look at the evidence, and I make up my own mind, and I move forward. And if people all did that, then we'd be so much better off, rather than like if you don't have the exact same beliefs as me in every single facet of life, then it's like the people who say, well, you don't mention Jews, so you got to, it's like, relax. If they don't mention Jews, then move on. If you want to find somebody who talks bad about Jews all the time, then go find that station. But it doesn't mean that, oh, you don't mention Jews, therefore you're a shill, you're this, you're that. No, give it up. Like, you need to be able to be smart enough to take the good and leave the bad and construct your own opinion of things. And people aren't capable of that anymore or something. It seems like they just, if the truth is, and I don't blame them, because we were all taught that you go to school and you sit in a desk and there's 30 of you and there's some lady at the front who gives you truth. She hands you truth, and your job is to simply memorize it, repeat it on a test, and that makes you smart. And that's the problem. That's not what intelligence is. That's just being a repeater. There's monkeys who do that. You can get any kind of machine to answer questions like that. That's not what you want. You want people who are capable of thinking and saying, well, let's see here. Yeah, you tell me that Columbus discovered America, but there was clearly a bunch of Native Americans here, and he clearly never stepped foot in the damn country. And from that, you need to be able to form your own opinion of that situation and do some research and reading, and you'll come to the conclusion that the guy was a tyrant, a piece of shit. He lied about saying he was God by predicting an eclipse. He, basically enslaved and murdered Native Americans and wanted their gold. So make up your own mind about that. And people are capable of doing that to some extent, but like when it comes to like science and astronomy and anything scientific, it's like all of a sudden people are like, no, you can't question that. Well, it's like, no, that's what science is questioning those things. You absolutely need to be able to take what they say. There's nothing wrong with listening to any scientific speech. I mean, I'll listen to TED Talks. And sometimes they'll say something I'm like, hey, that's interesting. Hey, I'll look into that. I'll do some research on that. And other things I'll look at and I'll laugh. Yeah, that's hilarious. I mean, I listen to Lawrence Krauss sometimes. 1 out of 50 things he says kind of makes me go, okay, this guy kind of understands science. And then he rattles off 49 out of 50 things, which are ridiculous, indoctrinated nonsense about, oh, science isn't about proving things to be absolutely true. Then 5 minutes later he says, and evolution is absolute fact. There's no discussing, there's no debate, no nothing. And I just laugh at that. But I feel like people aren't capable of making up their own minds, and I think that's what makes you unique. That's what makes you human. That's what makes life worth living. Imagine if we all had the same beliefs. What a joke that would be. I mean, you don't want to live in a world where everyone believes the exact same thing. You wouldn't have elections. You wouldn't have different restaurants because everybody would want the same thing for dinner every night. I mean, it's just ridiculous that you wouldn't have different channels on TV. You wouldn't have different websites because everybody would believe the same thing. So I think what we should treasure about being human is our uniqueness, and that people have different opinions, and that's what's cool. I don't know if you've ever looked at the tests that they've done. I think the guy Vsauce just did it, and I'm not promoting Vsauce or saying that this was a true test, but have you ever thought about the test where they put somebody in a room for 3 days? You ever seen that done?
No, what is it?
So they just did it to Vsauce, and he actually, I think he lost the challenge because he opened the door. But if you put somebody in a room, it's like a white room, everything is white, and you keep the lights on, and they put waters in there and little like milkshakes for him to drink, but no clocks, no cell phone, no windows. It's just a white room with pads on the wall and a bed, and that's it. And you put somebody in there for 3 days, and they go crazy. And at first, I'm looking at it like, I could do 3 days. But when you really think about it, I think the more I thought about it, I'm like, you know what? Maybe not, because you don't want to hear yourself think for 3 days. Like, and especially because he has a camera in there, so every day he's kind of like talking to the camera and saying, well, I think it's been about 18 hours, and he's like way off. He thinks, he goes to sleep one time, wakes up and says, oh, I think it's been like a day and a half, and it had been like 16 hours. So by the end of the 2 days, he thinks it's time to get out, and he still has a whole nother day to go. Eventually he opens the door to like leave and kind of looks out there and sees there's nobody out there, and then shuts the door. He ends up finishing it, but he did go crazy. He's in there and he kind of loses his mind, because after a while you need somebody to talk to. And I think that that's kind of what I'm talking about, that you need other people's opinions. You want to hear other people talk. You want to hear other people give ideas and bounce things off other people. And we may not think that. I mean, even me saying that right now, people might be thinking, I could do 3 days in a white box easily. But if you really think about it, you don't want to hear your own thoughts for very long, because you'll get bored. You already know what you think. You already know what you believe. So after a day and having nothing to do, nobody to talk to, you can make up little games. You can count numbers. But I could see where somebody could go crazy after 3 days.
Sure. I used to do long distance transporting for different things, and driving from Las Cruces to Roswell one day, it was excruciating because I couldn't get anything on the radio worth listening to, and the silence was just unbearable after a while. It's like being trapped in an elevator, and I could, it was crazy making. It literally was crazy making.
Right. And even that, you could get at least something on the radio, so you were at least maybe able to hear a voice. So imagine just being put, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that show I watched was like Vsauce's new show on YouTube Red, but I think the very first episode, the one that I watched, was free. So I think you can watch it for free. But yeah, basically it's just they put him in a room for 3 days, and by 2 days in, he's just, because there's nothing to do. And even my wife and I were kind of having a back and forth about it, because she's like, I could do it easily. And I'm like, yeah, but I think you think that because you would, we think, oh, I'll go lay in bed and I'll just lay there. But there's always other stuff going on, right? You can't just lay there for 3 days. You would lay there. I could be sleeping for 24 hours. But eventually you wake up, you get to go into the kitchen, you hear the radio, you go check out something, you look outside. But really, 3 days in a white room and the lights never go off. So you don't even know time, like you can't tell. You just have to keep it in your head, like, how long have I been asleep? How many times have I gone to sleep? So anyway, I just brought that up because I think people think we all have to think alike. Like, right. Oh, what do you believe about this particular thing? Oh, you believe that? And that's why I'm open with my opinions. Do I think Neil deGrasse is a liar, or do I think he's a true believer? I think he's a true believer. But anybody who would hear that and go, like, oh, Jaron, he's such an idiot because he thinks, it's like, well, it's not a problem that I have a certain opinion, and you should hear my opinion and then decide for yourself, like, I agree with what Jaron says. I still think he's a shill. Whatever it is, we can still move forward. We still have the same intents and purposes as far as exposing this whole thing. And I feel like that's what we're missing. Like, if you look at science, you'll never see Neil deGrasse throw Bill Nye under the bus. You'll never see Lawrence Krauss talk shit about, even though they probably have completely differing opinions about the, say, Big Bang, or what the universe is like, or whether string theory is true. Like, those guys don't believe the same thing as each other, but they're not going to throw each other under the bus because they just accept that they have the same general idea, belief, and they kind of have the same purpose in life, which is to push this whole science narrative. And really, I think that's where we can come together better as a, call it a flat Earth community or whatever, that we all think the Earth is flat, and we think that they've been lying to us about the globe. Everything else can wait. Even the whole religion topic, and that's one thing I give a lot of credit to Russian vids about, because he could very easily, being a Bible believer, say, well, fuck Jaron. I think he's an asshole because he talks out against the Bible, or he doesn't believe the Bible. Well, that, he doesn't do that because he understands, like I understand with him, that we both have the same opinion of the world. We both think that we've been deceived. We both think we live on a flat Earth. We both think that the Bible tells the truth about where we live. Like, we have so many things that are alike that we can leave that one difference and not worry about it. Yeah. It's not important. That I like all his stuff, and again, I'll watch his videos, and 90% of the stuff I agree with, 10% I don't. So what? It's just, what I see too much of is like, oh, this flat earther believes this, and so I don't trust him anymore, and this one believes it. It's like, leave all that shit. We can deal with all that stuff after we get rid of the assholes telling us we live on a giant spinning ball in space.
Exactly. It's the globe mindset that needs to go, which is all the thought policing and this conformist mentality. And I think that also, when I look at this field, it's like I got past the point where I'm like caring about what people's beliefs are outside of flat Earth for the most part. The idea here with like no Bible thumping, no globe thumping, no communism, no Mein Kampf, no drama thumping, it's to get us past that stuff and recognize that, right, hey, we're all on this one level plane. It's a meta tribe, and we're unique down to the level of the individual.
Right. You don't mean that you can't believe in a globe. I mean, you can't believe in the Bible and listen to the show. That's right. Not what you mean. We're not here to thump the Bible and tell everybody how true Jesus is. Like, you can have that belief. There's no problem with that. Nobody has a problem with your belief in Jesus and who you think the Savior is. And you shouldn't have a problem with anybody who doesn't believe that, because it's not what we're talking about. This isn't we're not having an atheist versus Christian debate. We're having a problem with 90% of the world that believes in a lie, and we need to join together. We need to be more about what brings us together, what we have in common, and leave the other stuff. And you know what? After the globe's gone, and after we get rid of this government that is basically trying to poison us at every turn, in our food, in our water, in our air, well, then we can worry about whether or not Jesus is God or not. But it's not important right now. Right now, we've got a pretty big stepping stone in front of us, which is a world of indoctrinated people that don't see that they've been deceived.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, I think that if you look at all the religions, how they divide, how like, oh, they read this verse this way, and this group doesn't. They divide into these different sects, and that's part of the purpose of these things. I believe that's why I refer to this thing as a hydra. It's like many heads, one body. It's all to divide us against one another. And so finally we come across something that unites all of us, which is the facts of reality. And that's a pretty good place to start. And so I say we're all on the same level.
Right, which is a Freemason thing, right? On the level.
Yeah, we're on the level, and we're appropriating that because we're on the level, and that's enough. And even in lodges, in some lodges, they have this kind of unwritten rule, which is no religion, no politics, meaning that this is a place where we can all be equal. And that kind of thinking, I kind of like it. So I'm appropriating it.
Yeah, because I mean, when it comes to beliefs about spiritual things, well, it's kind of up to you, and that's the whole cool thing about it. But as far as where you live, you were told where you live at second grade, and we're told it was a fact, and was given no supporting evidence, and then now we're looking for that supporting evidence and can't find it. Well, that's something everyone should immediately put to the front of their to-do list, which is, hold on a second, were we lied to or were we not? So we need to get out there and prove one way or the other, and if it ends up that we live on a globe, so be it. At this point now, it's been 2.5 years, and I've seen no evidence that leads me to think that is any more true at all than I, originally when I had problems with it. In fact, everything I learn every day is just a little bit more, of a feather in the cap, where it's like it just gets more and more obvious to me. And so I know there's very many people that are at different levels of this thing. Some people have come to it in the last 4 months. Some people have come to it in the last year. But regardless, I know that the way I feel now versus a year and a half ago is way different. Before it was kind of like, well, I think I'm on the right track, and I think and now I'm like, how do I show it? How do I expose it? How do I prove it? It's not a matter of, am I wrong, or could I be wrong, and I still am open to that. But I also am smart enough to say it's been 2.5 years and nobody's showing me things that would be required, especially of something you taught children and are continuing to teach children every day. That for something to be taught to second graders, it better be as cut and dry as it gets. And clearly the globe is not. So I just feel like we just need to basically figure out a way to expose this, and down the road, we can then go through all the other bullshit if we want to. But for right now, no, you're right. We just need to find that one thing that binds us. If it's that we're on the level, fantastic. And you can believe whatever you want spiritually, and more power to you. And if we ever get to the point where this is all cleared up, well, then we can move into those kind of discussions when we're not worried about, every day children continue to come out of 6th grade, 100% of them believing that they live on a spinning ball that has no evidence.
Exactly. You nailed it. And I think once we do pull down this curtain, I think people's priorities will change. Their priorities will change when they have all the real information, when they actually know what's real and what they were lied to about. And so a lot of these divisions that we have, these distinctions or these it's just not going to matter. I think priorities will change. And so let's set it aside for now and unite on this one
it's
thing.
Like drama. Same thing with the drama. I mean, we can go on with drama and say this person said this about so and so, or this person thinks this person's a shill, and all that does is just stagnate the whole movement, where there's nothing good that's going to come of that. Even if we spend a month on it and we end up finding out somebody is a shill, well, big deal. All you did is set us back a month where we could have been moving forward on things. And so, no, all your rules are perfect. I've been trying to, because we all get caught up in drama, right? And we've been taught that's what life is about. Every real world and every reality show is always, there's some drama with somebody, and it's captivating. It's fun to watch, but at the same time, it gets you nowhere. There's just nothing that's going to come about from any of it. And like I said before, if somebody's a shill, the last thing you want to do is call them out as being a shill from the beginning, because now you've just told them, hey, we're on to you, and they're going to rework their little strategy, and you've just kind of spoiled the whole thing. So if you've got doubts about people, keep it to yourself. Make notes. Get evidence together and wait till they've done something that you can show the world, hey, this is clearly this person is a shill or whatever. But just little talks about this person's this, or like I said, somebody in the comment section saying, oh, I think that you're working as part of a network to spread disinformation with, it's like, what the hell? How can somebody think that? Like, that is the dumbest belief. If I'm working with a network to spread disinfo, like, it just, anybody who thinks that, I'm like, you are so lost on, go watch my 275 videos and tell me how you can come to that conclusion. It's just, it should be clear to anybody, this guy is just some guy who thinks the earth is flat. He makes videos about it, period. Sometimes he's wrong, sometimes he might be right. End of story. There's nothing sinister going on, and people are all out there looking like, and I understand why, right? We were all lied to. So we look at everybody now with a little bit of a skeptical eye. But I think sometimes you want to maybe keep that little skeptic's eye. I kept it with you for first couple shows I listened to. What's this guy talking about? What is this guy doing? And then once I see that we're on the same page for most things, it's like, okay, cool. I'm on with this guy full force. I don't, I could care less about anything else. And I feel like that's how we should look at new flat earthers or new videos that come out. Just check, is this person speaking about the flat earth? Are they pointing out things that are fucking false about the globe? Then welcome aboard. Let's go. Let's move. We got shit to do. And besides just nitpicking and saying, well, yeah, I think he's doing this and he might be, controlled opposition, and fuck all that. If somebody's talking about the falsities of the globe and the truth of where we live and wanting to prove that with actual experiments or evidence or research, then that's who we should be embracing.
Yeah, exactly. The enemy, I mean, even if, yeah, that's the one thing, because as long as they're contradicting the mainstream, as long as they're asking questions, they're on my side. But the paranoia that's been injected in here is quite destructive. And so I'm trying to replace paranoia with pronoia, which is kind of a new
Hmm.
term, but it's basically saying, hey, if you're going to believe in a big conspiracy that you can't really prove, why not just assume that it's going to work out for the better, because you are going to manifest your reality anyway to some extent. And
Right.
why not give yourself a self-fulfilling prophecy that benefits you or that leaves you open to new possibilities instead of one in which we're all doomed no matter what and you can't trust anybody?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to look at it and say there's nothing good that can come of that. I mean, it's not like you can go around doubting everybody and then everything will just work out. Like, no, if you go around doubting everyone, well, you're going to cause a feeling, the general feeling through everybody of like this distrust and, well, you're right, I don't know, trust this person. And then it's just all these little people trying to prove the flat earth, but at the same time, they're getting accused by other flat earthers. It kind of just looks disgusting. We need to be, and that's something I've seen this last week with the billboards, is a much better job of people coming together in kind of a celebration for a win.
Right.
That's a win. No matter how you look at it, it's a win because we've got in front of the eyes. We're not assholes out there saying, we're not teaching children in schools that the earth is flat. We're not putting on a billboard, the earth is flat, you idiots. The billboard says, research flat earth, because that's all we're saying is that, hey, this thing that we were all taught is stupid, and this belief that we were all taught was desert wandering 3,000-year-old belief needs to be looked into, because some of us who are looking into it are seeing some important facets of it. And I think that's a big win for us. It came across as on a good vibe. It wasn't like, hey, these terrorists are putting this banner up.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it came across exactly for what it is. It's people who are generally are all under the same belief. We all think you should research flat Earth. We think there's enough information out there that will help you on your way, and we are dying for more people to research it with us, because we all need more eyes looking at everything. There's stuff we're all missing. There's research. There's no way we can go through all the possible research there is to do, and that's why I think the more people we get on this, well, eventually we're going to get some science people. We're going to get some. We've already have airline pilots, people in the military. We're going to get those. Who knows next when it's going to be a big name celebrity that is able to go out and say it in public, who maybe has enough money, maybe a rich Christian or somebody that has some money that they're willing to throw at this to see if it's true or not. And so I think we all need to be showing a better side of like a unity. Because if I'm some rich Christian or I'm some rich guy and I come along and see a group of people arguing with each other, calling each other shills, why would I want to invest in that? I don't want to invest in that. That's just a bunch of crap that's going to go nowhere. But if I see a community that actually cares about truth and is trying to find it and is researching and is doing experiments and coming together to fund rocket launches and these billboards, that's something that somebody who has $1 billion won't mind throwing a couple million at. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the shill spotting is very unconstructive, and I think it's actually intentionally done to cause us to doubt ourselves. So if they can come in and they tell every single person watching a video, oh, you can't trust that video creator. Well, what if you already started to trust the person because you researched it and you had your intuition saying, I trust this person's information. Then you get hounded with people saying, this guy's a shill. All that does is it erodes your own trust in your own perceptions and your own intuition and your own judgment. And I think that's what it's all about. Shill spotting is introduced deliberately to cause us to lose our ability to trust our own self, our own senses. It's a form of gaslighting.
Yeah, absolutely. And when somebody comes out and says this person's a shill, they're not even providing any proof. And now maybe 20% of the people who are watching that person now have doubts in their mind when there's no reason for any doubts to be there. If somebody's a shill or if somebody's controlled opposition, they're going to show it. And like I've said before, it's only my fault if I ever take something that somebody else says in a video and then run with it without doing my own research, without checking up on their facts, there's nobody else I can blame for that. That's just on me. And I feel like people forget that. But, anything I say in a video that you should be skeptical of. I mean, that's how you should be. And eventually, after you've watched quite a few of my videos and maybe followed up on a few things, maybe you'll notice that, hey, Jaron is right, or at least he's researching what he's saying 97% of the time. So generally, I might start believing some things that he's saying. Now, I don't think that's a smart idea. I'm not saying to believe me. You certainly want to investigate everything. But I'm saying there's some people out there that might say something on a video that I will just believe, that I think that they've done enough research. And again, if I take something that they've said and go on my channel and make a big fuss about it, and it turns out to be that they were wrong, that's not on them, it's on me. And I think if we kind of handle things that way, I'm not worried about shills. I could care less. It doesn't matter if anybody in the flat earth, Mark Sargent, Patricia, it doesn't matter if any of them are shills. It doesn't matter to me, because anything that they've ever said is, for the most part, they're speaking flat earth, they're talking shit on the globe, they're pointing out the things that are false about it. What can I possibly have a problem with that? I have no problem with that. That's exactly what I want people to do. And again, if they say something and I run with it, then that's on me, not on them. So anything that they say, if I'm going to turn around and repeat it, I do the research to make sure that what I'm saying is true. And if I do the research a few times and find out that Mark Sargent tells lies all the time, then I just don't watch his shit anymore. And I move on. He's still speaking good about flat earth, and that's how I kind of go through it. I think if we all handle things that way, then we'd be so much better off, rather than doubting everybody all the time and thinking they might be controlled opposition. Well, they could be, but who cares?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It shouldn't bother you.
Exactly. So I just say, hey, I'm shilling for the truth.
Right.
That's my record. You
Tell
can
me
see.
all you want. The globe is not true. And so if you think I'm a shill, well, then I'm a shill who's going around telling you that all the reasons I can think of that the earth is flat, and all the reasons I can think of that the globe is nothing more than a metaphysical idea. It's just you can believe all you want that there's people underneath you. I don't think anybody's underneath me standing upside down, period. And they tell you right there that, somebody in Australia is at sea level, and I'm here in California and I'm at sea level. So it just so happens they have this metaphysical idea that those people are upside down from you, but they're not really, because there is no up or down, and it's each relative. That's all great. So you can make up stories all you want. It just so happens that story is the going truth of where we live, and I heavily disagree, and we'll keep working until it's gone.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad that during this conversation you mentioned the children, because that's what we're really doing this for. We have to really think about the fact that the next generation's screwed unless we do something now. And that's why I like your channels, that you've been relentless, nonstop. You could have just said ISS is fake and walked, but you don't give them any quarter, which is important, because right now I think they're vulnerable. They won't be vulnerable in 5 years once the augmented virtual reality makes them capable of actually producing believable miracles. And so,
Right.
yeah, so
And that's we
yeah,
got to do it now, because you're right. It's the children, because the way I look at it, this is why no matter what I do going forward, it's helpful, because either I'm going to uncover the biggest deception of all time or be a part of that uncovering, or I'm going to change the way they teach children. Because in this process, we're going to uncover the actual truths and the actual evidence for the ball earth. And then these children that are growing up won't have to be just told at second grade and moved on. They'll actually be given the evidence and the research and the verification. And that's what you should get when you believe something. But we were taught belief comes from somebody telling you to believe it. And
right.
that is not okay. You need to, it's just not the way you raise a society or raise a group of individuals, that you want them to feel confident in what they believe because they've been given the evidence that suffices that belief. And none of us were taught that way, and that's a joke. And so either they taught us a lie or they don't know how to teach. And by doing what we're doing, we're going to fix that either way.
Right,
Either we're going to
exactly.
fix the lie or we're going to fix the way they teach it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The time of the students being baby birds with their mouths wide open and their heads leaning back, for the authoritarian mama bird to spit pre-digested bits down their throat, is over. And and part of it is our own complicity in it. And I think you're right, though. That once we return to, it's thinking for ourselves, but it's also perceiving for ourselves. That's like the bigger one, because you can make all your choices all day long, what websites you visit, what TV shows you watch, what you wear, and everything else. But if your perceptions are still corralled by the big lie, it doesn't matter if you're thinking of yourself because your perceptions are still not connected to reality.
Absolutely.
But hey, you've been on for almost 3 hours with me here. I appreciate you calling. This has been an epic phone call.
No
Um,
problem. And we will talk to you soon. And also, I do want to. I looked up that what's it called? Where that rocket launch will be? Can't think
oh
of the
yeah,
name of the
yeah,
city now.
Amboy, California.
Yeah, it's only 5 hours, so I wouldn't mind taking a little trip.
Cool,
So
cool.
yeah,
It'll be the
I
first
would
week
love
of
to see that.
August. I'm going to be out there. I'm going to live stream it. So, yeah, if you can get that on your calendar, we should absolutely do it. That would be absolutely awesome.
Okay. Yeah, as soon as you know the actual date, let me know.
I absolutely will. From the comments I've seen, people have been. A lot of these people actually look at this. They've all hung out this whole time. Here we are at almost 3 in the morning, three
They're
hours
awesome.
into this phone call, and no dead air. You know, just very constructive talk.
That's always. I don't know how you do it. You just you're like reading the chat. I can't do fucking two things at once. When I'm trying to do my live feed, I have to talk to myself. I can't look at the chat. You're just boom, 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 boom. So I got to take a few pointers from you on my live feeds because I can't watch the chat and talk at the same time. That's just I'm like a astronaut basically. That's my intelligence level.
Yeah,
I
it's
can only say science and science centric, and that's scientifically science, and science is going to prove that.
I have to credit my wrench squad with keeping all the superfluous nonsense out of the way. So when I look in there, it's focused. And I tell them it's a think tank. I mean, you're not going to get 300 people on this particular subject focus this intently for this long on something um, without getting rid of all these distractions and the trolls and everything. And so I say an armed society is a polite society. I give them all a wrench, and it seems to work out. But
I think it does. It works. Yeah, it works out a lot better than what I've seen on other channels. So, and I appreciate being vetted. I'm glad to be part of the crowd, and I'll talk to you soon. And the flapping is happening.
awesome. Hey, glad you know about that. Yeah, the flapping is going to happen whether it's too late. It's already going to happen. All right. Hey, thanks a lot for this conversation. And yeah, hopefully we can meet up in Amboy, California. That would be epic.
Sounds good. Anytime.
All right. Have a good night.
Peace.
All right. What do you think about that? Uh, again, thanks a lot, Jaron. That was a very fascinating talk. Flat Earth Subgeniuses, great show, Jaron and IPS. Always is. This whole, we call it a movement, a community, whatever. I call it a meta tribe, but he really gets it, 100%. And here we go. Morky Love says, "Awesome, you're still here." Yeah, look at all the people who hung out here, and that was completely spontaneous, by the way. Completely spontaneous. Wasn't planned, and it went in a lot of interesting places. And I really think that the whole point of this rocket launch and this whole move, whatever the naysayers say, the real point of it is to get this talk to happen at every single, every household, all at the same night, same day, same week, all the households in the country, everyone over their dinner, they're talking about flat Earth or they're talking about deception. When that happens, I think that the truth will come out, whether or not the rocket makes it to the firmament or the dome or out of space, whatever it happens to be. I think it might crack the dome and a bunch of red pills will fall down like Skittles, taste the rainbow. But we'll see. We'll see. Hulk Flat says, awesome chat. I am phase. I agree. Hashtag fuck Netflix. 100%. No more bow ties for Bill Nye. Stop paying your Netflix bill. And Infinite Mobius Strip donated 5. He said, the lifting of the veil that we've heard about for so long is being carried out through the flat earth narrative. It's a red pill and a thought experiment. And I agree. I think this flat earth thing, it's beyond geography. It's beyond sphere versus flat. It's actually a catalyst for thought. It's a catalyst for skepticism and for a rediscovery of the scientific method, free of the scientism, the corruption of scientism, because that's what it is. Scientism is corrupt science. And thank you, GPS Globehead Subgenius. Um, Appreciate that. Your contributions here. GSP, don't let the globe hit you on the way out, people are saying. Globebuster says somebody breaks that huge globe, they will blame me. Yeah, I mean it could be rolled like that one in Fight Club. And all right, that's cool. Hey, we'll go out there, we'll tip it, and we'll blame Bob. Blame it on Bob.
Bob said it was okay. He said he owns this place.
Oh yeah, exactly. All right, thanks, Bob. We'll keep that in mind.
You heard it here first. We'll save this. Got that on tape. Yeah, I don't know, and who knows what's in this museum, but I'm sure they've got many a cast model of a large lizard.
Yeah, yeah, and they don't put any sort of disclaimer on there that you're looking at a plaster model. And I've noticed there's a parallel here where the dino scientist will find a chicken bone and then make a brontosaurus out of it. And that's no different than when they take an image from the Hubble that has a little red dot and they'll say, oh, that's 20 new planets, all these different
Right.
colors. This one has ice, this one has 20 moons. It's the same thing. It's all just extrapolation and storytelling.
And things that aren't in our visual spectrum, or things that didn't exist, don't exist now but used to exist, or things that exist so far away that I mean, every lie is, of course, at a place that we could never get to it. Yeah, you can tell us stories all you want about things that used to exist. You can tell us things that are so far in space we can't get to, and you can tell us about things that the Hubble sees that aren't in the visual spectrum. I mean, where does it end? But that's clearly what they go after. They know they can't. I think they do their fair share of lying about things that are right here that we can see, but they love anything that they know we can't, and nobody will get to. I mean, nobody's going to travel anywhere that they're saying these things exist anyway, so they can just make up whatever they want, and you're at their behest.
Right, right. Their claims are not falsifiable, which puts them outside the purview of science.
Correct.
And that's a key point. It's just not falsifiable. I mean, flat Earth is falsifiable. Show me the curve. The
Hmm.
globe, I mean, the whole system is based on, it really does take a whole lot of leaps of faith that people don't even know that they took.
Right, because they taught us that it was all done through the scientific method, and the scientific method is the best method to get to the truth. So you teach children first, here's the scientific method, here's how we go through things, and you're like, okay, that makes sense. And then the next thing they say, you live on a globe, and the stars are 25 trillion miles away at the least, and you think, well, wait, this is in science class, so therefore these things went through the method. That's all that your second grade brain can fathom at that point, and it's not until you're 30 freaking five that you start looking for some of these hardcore evidence and hardcore proof that would be required of things you're going to teach to second graders, and when they're not there, you're like, what the fuck?
Right. And then the environment itself in the schools when they teach you this stuff is you're with a bunch of kids with one authoritarian, and if you disagree with the authoritarian in some way, everyone will laugh at you. So they use the fear of being shamed and outgrouped to corral your
Right.
thinking anyway. And
I mean, if you really put a number on like the amount of people that can come out of say sixth grade and not believe in a globe, it's 0%. It's impossible.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
So we got to change that because get it at least to be 10%. 10% have come out of sixth grade and are at least thinking rationally, and then it will just spread. But yeah, as long as it's 0%, well, that's why you've got all this kickback. That's why we can't uh, even talk to people about it, because they're saying, "What are you talking about? There's a 0% chance that you can believe that."
Yeah, I think people need to wake up to the fact that the fake news meme has been going around quite a bit in the last year. So we all know that news is fake, but fake science. People really need to understand that scientists are no more objective than reporters these days. They're just not.
No, anybody coming speaking about peer review, I mean, just put them in their place and explain to them that that is not the way you operate anything, is by getting all the guys together who have spent 20 years of their life talking about a certain subject and say, okay, these 20 people are, or, these 100 people or these 1,000 people, whatever, these people are the ones who are in charge of new information coming out. Well, you're asking that, the people who've spent 20 years of their life talking about a certain subject, you really think those are the people that are going to say, oh, you're right, my entire life was a lie, let's go with this new truth? It's never going to happen. So you've built a little echo chamber, and they describe it as if it's something magnificent. I mean, you would never get together all the rapists in the country and say, okay, you guys are in charge of deciding what the new laws are for rape victims, or what happens to people that are guilty of rape. That's not who you ask. You don't want to ask those people. Those people would say, oh, we don't think that anybody should get in trouble for that. It's kind of the same thing with science and peer review. It's the biggest joke of a system ever. You're not going to get those guys to say all in unison, yep, our entire lives are lies. We've lied to our family. We've lied to our friends. We've lied to people in auditoriums and people in classrooms. It would never happen. So we're going to be stuck with whatever they've spent 20 years preaching forever.
Yeah, it's orthodoxy, and arguing from those sources is in fact the argument from authority fallacy. They're arguing from basically a divinely revealed text. That's kind of how they.
Yep.
And something else I've noticed too, because I study a lot of the debates between atheists and creationists because it's really good for identifying flaws in someone's logic. So Christopher Hitchens, for example, points out the God of the gaps fallacy, the divine fallacy, where if the creationists can't explain something with science, they'll say God gives credit for it. They give God credit. Oh, God did that. So I've noticed Globies do the same thing. Anything they can't explain with their model, they say gravity accounts for that. So gravity
Yep.
is their god of the gap.
Yeah, if you actually look at the Wikipedia for gravity, I think I did this in one video a while back, but if you just replace the word God with gravity, it reads perfectly fine because the Wikipedia says gravity is responsible for everything that happens in the universe and for stars formation and for galaxy formation, and then it says, but is not responsible for things on a microscopic scale. It's just nonsense, but you replace that word with God, and the whole sentence reads, when are you ever going to make up all that curve? Where does that come from? It's just, it doesn't exist.
Right. I saw this. It was a graphic. It was like a cross section of the Great Lakes or something, where it's like 2,000. No, yeah, isn't? I think it's 2,000 miles. No, not no, it's 212 miles. I mean, but anyway, from the Great Lakes, there's 5 lakes there, and from Lake
Mm-hmm.
Superior down to the sea level, it's like 612 feet over 200 some miles. Where there's just, I mean, Niagara Falls is a little bit of a drop, but that's it. There's like barely any drop at all for this whole stretch of lakes, and I'm like, that's just that doesn't make sense.
No, it just doesn't work.
And it was actually a, I think it was a army army, not construction. What is it? It was some it's actually a U.S. military document that had the cross section of the Great Lakes and was showing how they're spaced and their different elevations. And I'm like, there is no curve in there at all. There's nothing. It's just flat.
Yeah, and I mean, too bad it's, would be too expensive to do something like, just attaching levels one next to another, and yeah, let's say they're a foot long, you'd have to do a mile's worth, or probably 3 or 4 or 5 miles to actually get it. But I mean, we're supposed to believe that these levels glued side to side would eventually go off into space.
Right.
That's what they'd have to do. It's just simply not going to happen.
Now, what do you think about the spirit level test on the airplane that was done by a couple of people have done that so far? Do you think that's pretty
I think the
conclusive?
better one is the accelerometer. I mean, that test that was done by Tesla's Apple, and I think that's conclusive as it gets right now. I mean, I don't know how, I haven't heard any explanation for it. Have you? From anybody that makes any sense of how that would work on a ball?
No, no, that's an interesting one. I haven't heard any sort of refutation. I've been waiting. Maybe I ought to hit that one a little harder these days because, yeah, I haven't heard anything contradicting how that one explains how, yeah, this thing isn't not a curved spinning ball by any stretch.
And I think that eventually we'll find, and I think that's what we need to push hard on, is that we can all speak about the many reasons mentally that the globe doesn't work, but I really think we have to find that one thing that we can put our finger on. For me, I was pissed because this last week I thought I found it. It wasn't even actually my idea. It was somebody else who came to me, and I kept telling him, "No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong." And then he said, "Well, model it, and you'll see." And when I modeled it, I didn't realize my globe is freaking broken. And as I modeled it, it didn't happen. I was like, "Yes, finally, I found it." And turned out to be not the case. But I think the more we push things like that, the quicker we'll find um, the one that doesn't work. And I think people need to not be afraid of being wrong. It sucks. Don't follow my trail, because if you read the comment section or just go to other videos and check it out, people are saying, "Oh, you work with Wolfie. Oh, you're part of a disinformation campaign." Just nonsense. And it's just because I went out on a limb. But when you're wrong, you admit you're wrong. It's okay. No, I guess we can model star trails on a globe in the way that I presented it. But there's so many more things. We just have to find that one, because when we find that one, then we'll just go full force with it, and they'll have no option. I mean, what are they going to do at that point when we find that one thing that just doesn't work on a globe? For now, for me at least, it's that accelerometer.
Right. And good point about not being afraid to be wrong because true science is humble. It starts off with, I don't know. And then you get people with Bill Nye with his bow tie, this preening narcissist who says he's going to save the world. And it's like, you can't get any more arrogant than that. And true science,
What?
you've got to be humble enough to say, yeah, I made a mistake or I was wrong here.
The cis male Bill Nye.
Oh yeah, yeah, the cis male with the sex junk, that whole thing.
That
Oh
was
man.
the most disgusting thing probably of the decade.
Yeah, the most cringe-worthy thing I've ever seen in my life. And that Rachel Bloom character has been doing that
Oh
kind of
boy.
stuff. Ugh. That was the thing that was singing the song. And before it gave that song, it had done another song by, it was called F Me Ray Bradbury, which is exactly as it sounds. But the song was sung from the perspective of a sixth grader, which
Oh
is like,
man.
that's twisted. And that's the chick that Bill Nye hired to do his sex junk song. So that tells you the kind of circles that these people run around in. These are not scientists.
Did
These
he,
are,
did he get to read the lyrics first? I mean, he didn't have a problem with give a handy to some newbie sad clown on Skype or whatever the hell. It's like,
yeah,
who allowed that to go through?
yeah, that was awful. And the sickening cartoon with the ice cream cones, like the vanilla one was being shamed for being vanilla,
Oh god, that's
and not having the
disgusting.
orgy with the Neapolitan and the sherbet or whatever. It's just like, what the hell's wrong with this guy?
I do have to say though that that video gave me hope in humanity again because when I first saw it, I was like, unbelievable. I know that all these science backers, fanboys, are gonna back this. Like it's okay, and luckily that's not what happened. In fact, I have yet to see somebody who has said anything positive about it. And I think last time I checked, it was something like 1,000 thumbs up versus 96,000 thumbs down. It's by far the worst I've ever seen
Yeah,
in thumbs up, thumbs down.
that shows you how far off they are. They think that they can tell people what to think, but there's a line. I think that
Right.
there's a
Went a little
line
too
there.
far there.
Yeah, so they hit that.
That if they have their way in 10 years, it will be the thumbs up, thumbs down will be the opposite.
Exactly. Or they will make it impossible for people who would give it a thumbs down to express that opinion. I mean,
Yep.
there's some law in Canada right now they're passing where you could be like charged for a hate crime if you misgender somebody. And to me, I don't know, Kyle McDonald's in Canada, and he's like, I'm going to say that flat earthers are gender. And if you don't properly identify me as a flat earther, you're going to be charged with a hate crime. It's like, do it. That's exactly where they're leading this thing towards. Thought
And
policing.
that should probably be our next step is to look into getting it as a 501c, religion or something, so that it can be considered a hate crime.
Ooh, good
We got to
call.
play by the rules sometimes.
Well, he put up a sign that said research flat earth and stapled it to a telephone pole, and somebody stopped their car, got out, ripped up the sign, and stuffed it under a bush.
Isn't it funny how talk about triggered?
Yeah.
People get so pissed.
Well, the only truly politically incorrect position or stance to take today is flat earther. Everything
Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start.
2, 1.
Infinite Plane Society, how may I help you?
Yes, I'm looking for the head of the penguin.
All right. Hey, jeranism, thanks for dropping by. You just got on, and right now I just pulled up onto the screen a picture of Mad Mike's Hughes' newest. Yeah, it's the latest picture of the rocket, and as you can see, it's pretty much built.
Dude, that guy's got some balls.
Yeah, did you hear what he said? He said that last one, he was like, I gave myself a 30% chance of survival.
Yeah.
I was like, what? A
At
30?
least he said this one's going to be a little bit more.
But
He
that,
gives himself a higher percentage chance.
oh, okay. Yeah, that's an optimist though. See, if he was a pessimist, he would say, I've got a 60% chance of dying. But he's like, no, I got a 30% chance of living. So yeah, the guy's got something. He's got a conviction in his. I mean, he's a daredevil, but this is taking it to a new level.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to hear what he wants to do, and as expensive as it is, I think that if we get the right amount of people behind it, it can happen.
Yeah, and that's my thing about this rocket launch. This next one in August is, I think if we can drum up enough support for this and enough attention, then the next one will have no problem meeting any of its financial objectives in order to make that one happen.
I didn't check what we're at. What are we at today?
I think we're at 18 or 1900.
Oh,
And
so not much after the Raw show.
yeah, it kind of had a spike at first, but I think by the end of this month we'll get close to 4 or 5. And we're on a good timeline though. I think we're going to make the goal.
And did he pick a date yet, or we just got beginning of August? That's all we know right now.
He's convinced that he'll get the most media attention if he does it in the middle of the week. So we're looking at August 5th.
Okay.
And so I'll be going out there. That's a great interview, though. And did you get any information from him about the type of camera they're going to use?
For the rocket launch or for the space thing?
For the space thing.
No, just that it won't be a GoPro, obviously.
Right.
It'll be a linear. Well, not. I don't want to say it's not going to be a GoPro. It can be a GoPro camera, just not with the fisheye lens.
Yeah, the curvert lens, as we like to say.
Very curved. Yep.
Yeah, like Jimmy Curvert. Jimmy Kimmel. I pointed this out, how Jimmy Kimmel gets on his back porch and he says he can see the curve of the horizon. Well, someone said that he's been talking about that for years. So they've been doing damage control for the wake up before it even started, I think. But so what do you think of all these in-person flat Earth meetups?
I think they're awesome. I mean, I haven't been to one yet, but I want to get one going somewhere in the Bay Area, just because I think it's awesome to meet other people, and sometimes we get trapped in these, internet world where you've got nothing but drama and chaos and trolls, and so when you get outside that, as long as you don't have trolls showing up trying to pretend to do live feeds from the corner, I think it's a good thing. So I'm looking forward to attending a few coming up here.
Yeah, cool. I look forward to it. I'm going to be out there in California for the launch in August. How far is Amboy, Texas from the Bay Area, from where you are? Oh, no, it's Amboy, California, excuse me. Amboy, California.
It shouldn't be too far. I don't know where it is. Let me check right now. When he said that, I was going to check, and I forgot. It's got to be down south, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me see. That's that.
But for those of you who are looking at the picture, yeah, that rocket is a steam-powered rocket. He's going to release a PDF on how the thing works and how the other one works. But this one's going to go for 1 mile at about 600 feet up or so. And then it's going to parachute down. After that's the big launch where he it's a raccoon, a rocket balloon. So it's a rocket lifted by a balloon up to 130,000 feet.
And then what does he want to do? He wants to shoot a rocket from that point and hit 60 miles?
Yeah, that's what they're talking about. And I'm like, wow, I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, he has the information, but it's all proprietary. He's going to release it probably next month. But they have a plan to get to the Kármán line. So I hope there's not a dome for his sake.
Hey, I'm all for it. Let's no naysaying. Rule number 2.
Yeah, exactly. I have naysayers saying, even if he gets up there, it's not going to prove anything. I'm like, all right, there's no pleasing some people.
No, that's the thing, is that it doesn't matter what we come up with or what we see. They'll just dance around it.
Right. Well, what I want to find out is when they plan this launch, are they calculating for the rotation of the Earth, or are they launching assuming it's a flat plane as far as where he's going to land and everything?
Well, I think all their calculations always have to assume that the Earth is still. They've got their whole make-believe, everything attached, the atmosphere is attached, and everything moves with it, and that's why they get away with that. But they have to take everything and assume that it's stationary and flat.
Right, exactly.
It'd be like, go ahead and try building railroads with curvature in mind.
Yeah, well, someone in this chat room, I think, yesterday or the day before, they said that they were speaking to a carpenters union, and I think there were hundreds of people there. And he said he was talking about flat Earth, and he said that these carpenters, a lot of them, they were listening to what he said, and they had no trouble understanding it. And it wasn't like they were just becoming flat earthers, but they were actually asking questions about it, and kind of thinking about how they actually do their own work. And like, well, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, because they have to no matter where you're building, you have to assume that parcel of land is flat. And so at some point, you got to give. I mean, all you got to do is look at that lake in Russia. I forgot the name of it, but it's like 350 miles long, and it freezes over every winter, and it's completely flat. So, I mean, that's all you need to know, that water doesn't curve. You got 350, and if for, let's say, that one section is flat, well, then where are you making it up that there's even more curvature? So, yeah, I mean, carpenters and geodetic surveyors, they'll all come around eventually and realize that you can't just have flat next to flat next to flat next to flat and never leads perfectly through. And you're exactly right. I mean, I noticed right away that you've got this group that goes around laughing at creationists. They, oh, you're a creationist, you believe in creationism, and yet they believe in a moment in time where everything that exists was created. That's what they believe in. So it's like, wait, how can you laugh at creationists when you believe in creation? What is the difference between the Big Bang and creation?
Yeah, just different nomenclature. I thought about that. Like Christopher Hitchens died thinking he was an atheist when he was actually a faithful adherent of the state religion of scientism and heliocentrism. And he accepted a God proxy or just God by another name.
Yeah, by the name of nothingness, I guess. I mean, when I found out I used to think, okay, the Big Bang happened and here comes all this stuff spewing out, but they actually believe that everything that there is was created in that split one millionth of a second. That's why when you hear them talking, they say, "Oh, we can go back to one millionth of a second before the big or after the Big Bang." So you're like, "Well, why can you only go that far? Where's that extra?" Well, in that extra one millionth of a second, they say everything that there is was created. It makes no sense. It's like, well, where was it all? Where did it all come from? It just appeared out of nothing, and yet they laugh at creationists.
Yep, it's an absolute myth.
I think that's more scientific, I guess.
It's all nomenclature. Like I've been pointing out for a while that the obelisk is just another has been re-represented as the rocket, or the satellite takes the place of the angel. Uh, the carbon footprint replaces original sin. I think that you could also make a number of parallels where they took their old religious system and they dressed it up with science. They replaced heaven with space, and they replaced these anthropomorphized deities with spinning balls with the same names.
And they promoted their saints, right? The Saint Isaac Newton, Saint who else? They got them all. Brian Cox is one. He's going to become one soon, I'm sure. And Saint Brian Sagan or Carl Sagan. These
Yep.
guys just got promoted to sainthood. They must have performed some miracles, I guess.
Yeah, and they do have their miracles that they cite, the things that can't be repeated, but that are accepted, like the Cavendish experiment is to me that's like a miracle.
Yeah, you measured the weight of the Earth somehow while being on the Earth.
And then another thing that religions do is they'll show like some kind of lineage that they come from an ancient source or they have some sort of like claim to authority. And I think that I think that dinosaurs are just nothing more than like a shrine or something. It's almost like this dinosaur is almost like a monolith, like it suggests something. So they invent the dinosaurs in order to bolster their claims that, oh yeah, the Earth was created this long ago, asteroids exist. These things are all just they're myths. There's really no other way of putting it. They're myths, and flat earthers are really the only myth busters.
Yep. Yeah, and if you let them keep going with it, they keep getting away with it, and it makes no sense. I mean, if you believe we went to the moon, number one, and then you believe in asteroids, number two, which any science fan is going to believe in both those, then if we ever got hit by an asteroid again, I'm not saying I believe this, but let's put ourselves in their world. That if we were to get hit with an asteroid and the whole world were to be destroyed, that it would be 100% NASA's fault. Because they can go to the moon, so why the hell don't you have 40 people, 50 people living there in case the Earth gets hit by some asteroid that you can save the human race? They don't even do that. So it's like, obviously there's no threat of any asteroid coming and destroying it. You're talking about now, oh, we're going to go to Mars, we got to go there, we got to colonize that, even though you can't live there, there's no air, there's no water. And people love it. People just are lining up. If they had an ad for who wants to go live on Mars, you wouldn't be able to contain the amount of people that would want to live there, as if it's anything compared to where we live now.
Yeah, and with the asteroid thing, there's a show that just came out called Salvation, and it's for like 12 episodes, and it's about an asteroid coming down and hit the Earth. And I was thinking about it. This is one of the reasons why I've been after dinosaurs lately, because when they teach you about dinosaurs when you're a little kid, like here's all these cool toys, here's the dinos. By the way, a big rock fell and killed them all. They teach you about mass extinction when you're little. And that's predictive programming, and now they're still pushing it in the media. Asteroids are going to kill us at any minute now.
It's just ridiculous. And I mean, how did these things get so big that, what were they eating? It's like, it makes me laugh, the whole dinosaur fallacy is nonsense. It doesn't even work. And then they talk about, oh, well, you needed, thousands of millions of years for human evolution to come into play. But really, then you just need to throw it back at them and say, well, wait a second. I thought dinosaurs went extinct 67 million years ago. You said anything bigger than like a hamster was wiped out. So now you're saying in 67 million years that hamsters evolved into human beings. That's all it takes now. I thought you said it needed billions of years,
Ooh,
and
good
instead,
call.
no,
Yeah,
it's just it's 67 million years.
good call. Hadn't thought
I mean,
about
if you
that
think
one.
in 67 million years that we're going to have hamsters that are going to be designing jet aircraft and flying across the plane, and you got to be kidding me.
Now, I heard you mention once. I think you kind of alluded to this new chronology thing. Have you looked into that? This idea that our history may be as unreliable as CNN and Fox.
Oh yeah, no, a lot. I mean, that's kind of one of the books I'm reading right now is Anatoly Fomenko's. I think I'm on the second book, and yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, and I would talk about it a lot more, but it is really unprovable. There's some good points, some conjecture, but as far as our history, they're gonna. It, it's already been proven as much as it can that I mean, go look at books and look at how far back we can go. There's no books that can be reliably dated before like 1200. So really, I think the best way that I've proven to myself that the whole chronology is wrong is just looking at a human population calculator and looking at what the population would be. I think right now we're running a 1.2% population increase, which is, basically you take the amount of people you have at the end of it or at the start of a year, and then you look at it what it is at the end of the year and how much are you increasing.
Else goes. Everything else is politically correct as far as I'm concerned. Like
Right.
Bill Maher can say the N word on TV. Kathy Griffin can decapitate the president. And Snoop Dogg can shoot him. That's all fair game. But if you say flat Earth, yeah, then they turn on you.
Quickly.
But well, my hope with this rocket thing, by the way, is that even if he doesn't prove anything or validate anything, even if the camera fails, I'm hoping that this will elevate the discourse and get more people talking about it on a more serious level. And I think that when that happens, more serious minds or people who might have certain information will just step up and say, hey, this makes sense. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for by getting behind this Mad Mike. So I was really glad that he got on your show, and he's still. I hope he gets on Glowbusters. And by the way, Glowbusters left a comment here. He said that you're trying to get to Denver to get his autograph. Is that true?
No.
Okay. Unequivocal.
I don't want to say I love Bob. No, I do. I'm going to see Bob soon enough. Well, November, maybe before that, but we'll definitely cross paths in November. Get to see John for the first time. So that's going to be awesome. Get to see a lot of people. I've had a ton of emails from people saying they'll be there. So that's going to be pretty kick-ass. You'll be there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I've only met one flat earther in person, and honestly, it's really nice. It's really interesting to be around people who um, know what you're talking about when you're talking about this stuff in person. It's so much nicer than. I mean, I like talking to people online, but honestly, having someone in. We went. It was Jake Gibson and I. We went to the dinosaur museum and just kind of walked around. He was kind of trolling people there. It was kind of funny, but it was just like to hang out with other flat earthers is very constructive. The ideas that come out of it, it's very, very constructive.
Now, have you seen the image that's at the Museum of Natural Science in Raleigh, North Carolina yet?
No, what is it?
Oh, let me see if I can get it for you here. I'll drop it in the chat here. Oh, it's terrible. So you and I have to come up with a plan for, let's see, that would be, what is it, Thursday, Friday is the conference. So maybe Thursday night we'll have to do something here. Let me find our Skype, and I'll drop this in the chat for you.
All right.
You can show it if you want. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. How do I?
You can drop it in the chat. I'll just send
Oh,
it.
I'll drop it there. 1 second. Copy image address. All right, here it is.
Okay.
Yeah, check out that image.
All right. Let's see. Naturalscience.org calendar. Okay, let's see what this is. Oh my God.
So we got to come up with something, man. We got to.
Oh
We got.
no. That is, I mean, that's just ridiculous. That has to go.
It has to go. I'm thinking a giant blanket or something that we somehow put on some poles and uh, cover it up, or that'll hit the news.
Now, is that like a plan, like a an architect's plan, or is that like the real thing? Is that already up there? Because
No, that's there. That's real.
that's horrifying.
It's horrifying.
Because you can't unsee it, and that's to me that's brainwashing. That's
Oh
crazy.
God, is it ever?
Yeah, yeah, we're gonna have to come up with something. Anybody have any ideas? By the way, November. Yeah, we'll have to go down there and do something with this thing. Like, it might be a
I
good.
think we might be able to, if we like, did a big quilt. I don't know, some big old blanket, and somehow got it up over that. I don't know, some people with some rocks or something could throw them up on the roof there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's something. That's got to be 100 feet tall. I mean, it'd be a good protest site. Like this is BS or this isn't real. But
Yeah, we could just march around it too, but it actually, I think it lights up at night. Yeah, if you look up some other images of it, it's you just look up Museum of Natural Science, Raleigh, North Carolina. It actually lights up at night. It is huge and bright and obnoxious and false.
good find. Good find.
So I don't know how far that is from the actual event, but when I looked up, because I've never been to North Carolina, so I looked up Raleigh, and that's the very first thing I saw. Like, holy Lord, what is going on?
Unbelievable. Yeah, this is something. Yeah, we'll come up with something. There's got to be something we can do. At the very least, I'm gonna have to go see it for myself. That is colossal.
That is huge.
Somebody says paint. Oh, somebody said, oh, chess. We can't do that. He says
Now we got to think of something that won't get us
exactly.
arrested for facing. I don't know what the rules are about protesting something like that, but I don't know. I think as long as you don't break anything or cause any damage, I don't think they could do anything.
Right, right.
I mean, if we covered it with a blanket that somebody just needed to pull off, probably wouldn't get in trouble for that, but at least you could stand back and get a couple quick pictures and maybe the media will catch it.
Now, what globe would this be? What projection is this? I mean, is this thing even like where? I don't even see Antarctica on the bottom.
Because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it doesn't
I
have
don't
it.
know. Let me see. I don't see. Yeah, you're right. I don't see it at the bottom at all. Um, I don't think it spins. I'm trying to see. No, it doesn't look like it does any spinning
Now,
because it
this
looks
would
like I
be
would see.
it would be a good protest site though. Like someone like Authentic Intent could be out there pointing it out to people, saying, "Hey, look, that thing's fake. This is what it really is." So I could see this being used to kind of open dialogue at the very
Yeah, me
least.
too.
Because one of the things he
Yeah,
does in one of his videos, Authentic Intent, who's someone he's doing some a lot of street level activism, is he'll go in front of the dinosaur museum and he'll tell people, "Hey kids, dinosaurs never existed. Ask the people in there that none of those are real. It's all made in China." Like he'll go out there and
right.
he'll say it to their faces, and that's great. I mean, so I could see that working here as a tack.
Did you say you saw somewhere what its size was? I
Uh,
heard you say 100. Were you just
n-
estimating?
I was estimating. I was estimating based on the size of the building around it. But so, Mark here says there's a globe like that in Washington too. Interesting.